Writer and filmmaker Kamran Pasha joins us once again here on Midnight's Edge in the Morning. It's Friday. We've gotten through another week here on the YouTubes. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Welcome to Midnight's Edge in the Morning. I'm your co-host, Tom Connors. With me, as always, is the boss, man, Andre. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Greetings. Hope everyone is doing great out there. And speaking of great, we have a great guest that I'm always excited to have on the show.
That's right. We have the one and the only Kamran Pasha.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for having me on. As I told you, this is very early in the morning for me. It's 9 a.m. and I usually sleep till 10 because I'm a night owl. I work at night, and then I usually sleep till 10 or 11. So I'm like, only for you would I wake up at 9 a.m. in the morning.
He does let us know this. We appreciate it, too.
We really appreciate that. And to everyone that does not know, Kamran Pasha is, of course, a writer and a producer. And unlike many others who work in Hollywood, you're also a highly educated man with proper MBA and business and legal experience to go with it. And on top of that, you've also worked on things like Sleeper Cell, Kings, and Tron Uprising, as well as you've written 2 novels so far, Mother of the Believers and Shadow of the Swords. So it's always a pleasure to have someone with your extensive background and experience joining us for these live shows. And we're so grateful that you'll wake up earlier for us in the morning. So.
I'll tell you right now, Mills, Rob would tell you to go with the Pornhub sub. But Rob's not here, so.
Yeah, he's not here. So we'll say that you'll go with the right choice.
I will say one thing, Andre. I think you need to have a beautiful female co-host as well. Tom is great.
I tried.
There's too much testosterone on.
Everyone was busy this morning, man. I tried. All our toxic femmes are busy. I don't know.
Yeah. We maybe we'll see who can join us later. We always love when one of our lovely toxic femmes will join us, and if we're really lucky, we'll see if someone can show up later on. But yeah, for right now, you'll just have to deal with our toxic masculinity.
But the ladies do have the link if they're available, so hopefully one of them will pop in throughout the show. Who knows? But yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. There's the Gina Carano business.
There's Kathleen Kennedy putting her foot in her mouth yet again and lying.
Oh, I didn't hear about this.
Oh, yeah, well,
actually, I did. Now that I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah. Before that, though, we've got a couple of super chats. We're going to try to get caught up right away before we get on with the proper show. Insane hippie insane says for $5, rest in peace Mira Furlan, aka Ambassador Dellen of Mimbar, in Valen's name. Oh, well, rest in peace. And Joe Pat 87 says it's like you're on Turner time. Turner as in TBS. Except you still have to make strenuous effort to catch up.
What Joe Pat's talking about there is back in the day. For some reason, well, I mean, you can figure out why later on, but like TBS used to start everything 5 minutes past the hour. They were the only station that did that. Well, it was because you'd stay watching them longer because you'd be 5 minutes into the next show, so you wouldn't flip.
Well, very strategic. It's not just because, and that's why we do that. That's why we do this. That's why we start 5 minutes past the hour.
Keep telling yourself that.
Yeah. No. I'm trying to convince everyone who knows we're always late.
I think you're trying to convince yourself at this point.
It's better that way. And speaking of toxic femmes, Kamran, here we have a toxic femme, namely our very own, who says, "Hi, gents. Love Midnight's Edge in the morning." And we love having everyone.
It almost wouldn't be Midnight's Edge in the morning without here.
Wait, Tom, did I see your face? Is this Charlie's Angel? Did you actually reveal your face accidentally?
As long as my cord will hold up, yeah. Like I need a new extension cord.
I finally see Charlie. All I know is
if I bump something, though, it might go out. So.
Yeah. And as for me, I still need to get the webcam, but I look exactly like that. That is a picture of me.
He looks like a cartoon.
you're all Vikings, right? I mean, you get that Viking DNA, so I assume all of you guys look the same.
Yeah, we all look the same. So they all say so, yeah. And Dark King 616 wonders, where's the background image from? Is that the mountain where Andre keeps his throne? Well, it's actually Bodø. That's a little bit further north. My mountain is in Trysil. I'll see if I can put a picture of that at some point. And then also for Tom, Congo 2, Gorillas in the Rain. No F's given. Well, Cedric Taylor.
Congo is an interesting movie.
Well, Cedric Taylor 08 says, well, I found out the Lynn passed this morning. Yeah, so there you go. And with that, we are reasonably caught up with what we've gotten in the early minutes. So we'll deal with everything else later. But let us now get on with the main topics of today. And the first one is, of course, Gina Carano, the fan favorite, the woman who is the furthest thing from a Mary Sue, who really earns her strength and her power on screen, as well as she's a tough as nails woman off screen as well. Someone who on Twitter, she has never said anything like bad per se. She has never disparaged anyone to my awareness. The only thing that she has done is refuse to submit to those that demand that she bend the knee. And that, of course, is a high crime. And for this high crime, she's not all that popular within the halls of Lucasfilm. And many of the people in Lucasfilm, namely the Kathleen Kennedy camp and the story group, are, of course, the very kind of people that demands everyone around them bend the knee. So Gina refusing to do so in such a public manner isn't going to go down very well. And thanks to Itcchy Bacca, who was the one who broke this story of an artist whose surname is Rat, which is unfortunate, but that's how it is, who did a video where he said that he had been commissioned to do some Mandalorian artwork. And initially it featured Cara Dune. But then, as he tweeted, he was asked to remove Cara Dune from it and replace it with Ahsoka Tano instead. And now some people may say that these are rumors and what have you not, but no, he deleted the tweet later on. But there's even a video of him actually wiping out Cara Dune from the picture and painting Ahsoka Tano over it. And as you can see on screen, the finished image looks kind of awkward because you see like everything else that looks pretty organic, whereas Ahsoka Tano, she looks kind of painted in. To me, it's kind of like obvious a little bit that she's like added later on, which is weird. And Mark Rotz. Let's hope it's pronounced Rotz. So let's just say that it is. And again, this isn't his fault. If anything,
Rats is what everybody's been pronouncing it as. But
Rats. I don't know. In any event, no one should go after him because he's only doing as his employer tells him to do. If anything, he's a hero for letting everyone know that originally Gina Carano was there, which would make much more sense when you look at the picture. And it's a Lucasfilm instruction that he did otherwise. So that's the backdrop here. This is no rumor. But then I wonder, what could be behind this? Why would they erase Cara Dune, of all people? Now, we all probably have our thoughts on this. So, Kamran, what are your thoughts on this, strictly as an observer?
Well, as an observer, we've seen that when it comes to marketing, there seems to be a lot of, pandering that Disney does and Lucasfilm does. I don't know how much influence Jon Favreau and others have on the day-to-day marketing of things. And so if we remember when the Star Wars trilogy movies were being put out in China, the marketing people then erased Finn from it because they thought, well, Chinese people don't want to see a black guy, right? and they erased it, right? And so this was this kind of racist pandering that they did. And so perhaps what we're having here is, and I would hope it's an independent sort of the marketing group without really getting, the approval of people like Mr. Favreau, went ahead and said, under the current circumstances, politics in the world, where Ms. Carano is identified as, even as you said, she's very gracious. She doesn't talk specifically about politics. She shares positive memes, but she's been identified as a conservative. And some of these marketing people may have decided in the current moment that we're in this week with this inauguration, all this, maybe it's a good idea to erase her so that we don't get any kind of bad press or get any more attention. I would like to believe that is what happened rather than more nefarious things, which would be very sad, because I think, Gina is an incredible character. Her character is incredible, and she's a wonderful person. And so, and the fans want her. I know Favreau is very aware that fans want her. I think he's very aware of that. I think the toy division is very aware. The licensing division is very aware of the money she's bringing in because her toy sells. So I'd like to believe it's nothing more than some person thinking, well, we got to keep things politically safe right now in this current environment. I'd like to believe that. I hope there's something more than that.
Yeah. Tom, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, talk about a can of worms here.
Yeah.
First of all, you have two different sides to this. There's a lot of people who obviously see and agree with the reporting that we've been a part of a little bit with the whole division within Lucasfilm. And then you have some people who claim there is no division within Lucasfilm. And then you see things like this, and it's pretty obvious there is a clear division in Lucasfilm. And when you hear things like, here's the thing, when I first heard that the rumors that they were trying to make Gina apologize, I'm like, for what? And then of course I understand the whole mind think thing. Like, if this is true, then yeah, I can see it happening, but I didn't buy it until this. Now I kind of see a little bit more like, if this is fucking true, then look, this is some of the most underhanded, cowardly, and excessive TDS I've ever fucking seen in my life. Because, I mean, we're getting to this point now where, and again, I don't want to get into politics, but I've seen a lot of celebrities call for basically the heads of individuals who supported said, syndrome causer.
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah, syndrome causer. Let's go with that.
Yeah, and we've also had, a lot of people, not just necessarily, and when I say call for heads, I mean more so like their jobs. Okay, like I haven't necessarily seen anybody call for the actual life, but there has been some things that have been pretty much on the line. So yeah, like, to me, this is just getting ridiculous. And if this is true, and if this guy is really trying to show us what's going on behind the scenes, more power to him, like you said, Andre. And for anybody who wants to argue with me anymore about a division within fucking Lucasfilm, go fuck yourself, because it's pretty goddamn obvious. If they're erasing, obviously, the most popular character besides Baby Yoda on The Mandalorian, give me a fucking break. Anybody want to tell me Ahsoka blew everybody's mind? The only reason anybody gave two shits is because of who was playing her. Otherwise, everybody's like, yeah, she was all right. She's breaking some canon. We're not sure why she's there. There's this, that, and the other problem. But hey, it was cool. I don't remember anybody going off their rocker about her like they did Gina. Like, Gina, you have nothing but nonstop Gina love for how many months now?
Yeah, and Gina rose to like number 2 on IMDb's like popularity list, right? Of everyone of the millions.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, she tweeted it out. She actually tweeted that out, and so that's how popular she became. I mean, out of the entire IMDb list of 1 million people, right, in Hollywood, she rose to number 2 in most searched.
Yeah, that's like the thing that, unlike Rey, unlike Holdo, unlike anyone associated with the sequel trilogy, unlike anyone associated with Rogue One, Gina Carano is a genuine fan favorite. And I say genuine as in there are receipts to show that she is. Not just some paid-for article that claims that Rey is a fan favorite or Rose Tico is a fan favorite. No.
The Diamond Select or
you
the
have
Diamond
toy
Toys
sales.
guy would argue with you there.
Yeah. Exactly. You have toy sales that say that she is a fan favorite. You have IMDb searches that says that she's a fan favorite. Like, for instance, you have like Parrot Analytics that says, Star Trek Discovery is the hottest thing ever, but I've never ever seen the actress playing Mikey Spock ever trending on IMDb, nor anyone else associated with that. Whereas Gina Carano isn't just trending, she's right there at the freaking top spot. That is a genuine fan favorite, and there are receipts for it. And I think that makes things all the worse for the Kennedy faction, who are seemingly losing on all accounts. They've been relegated to doing the High Republic that no one cares about, that seems to be a bomb that's going to take years to run to its conclusion, where they have like mixed and matched the audience. You're supposed to be able to pick up every little thing, and they have both adult novels and like little kids books, and they expect everyone to read everything. I don't know what kind of world they're dreaming in. And then comes Jon Favreau, and he makes a massive smash hit out of The Mandalorian. He brings Luke Skywalker back, which these people apparently hate, and they can't stand Gina Carano because she is so very positive and so cheerful, and she won't submit. And then worst of all, she's popular, and they can't have that.
Yeah. And I gotta disagree a little bit with this. Molnier's Power says, no, Gina is a fave because most nerds are simps. If that was the case, then they would have been simping for Rey.
Yeah, she's lovely, and they weren't.
Exactly. The only people that were simping for Rey were basically like
weirdos.
Yeah, the Reylos, and these were people that weren't just simping for her; they were stalking her and making her uncomfortable.
Yeah. And the only ones that care along with the Reylos, it was those that were just using Star Wars as a political platform. They didn't care about that character. They just kept talking about, well, it's finally a woman is in charge. I mean, that's what I would hear from my Hollywood friends, right? I was like, man, you think Princess Leia wasn't in charge? I mean, you see her in Star Wars. She grabs the blaster from Han and said, "Get out of my way," and starts shooting the stormtroopers. I mean, it was just a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But anyway, so obviously she's not very popular within the Kennedy faction because that is Gina Carano represents everything that they are against. She's a female, but she didn't come from them. She's popular, and it's not their doing, and she won't submit to their agenda. On the contrary, she subverts it in positive, cheerful ways. Yeah. And because of that, they claim that she's controversial and she says controversial things on Twitter. No, she doesn't. She simply won't submit.
Yeah. Well, the thing is what she does is she's not once, to my knowledge, got behind one candidate or another. Mm-hmm. All she's done, like you said, Andre, is tweet out things that may seem a bit conservative, and that freaks them the fuck out.
Yeah. And I will say, as someone that is not from the US, that has no game in your little party politics between the elephant side and the donkey side, that's a fight in which I do not have a dog. Well, I do not get to vote.
Here's the problem.
But let me finish, because just like seeing that from outside, what you say is conservative, I see as she's just talking common sense. And
well, I was just going to say,
like a regular human being.
Actually, I was just going to say, Andre, the thing is what most people see as quote unquote conservative. Here's the problem that, Hollywood does not understand. Majority of the country is the middle of the road. Mm-hmm. Like you have left-leaning conservatives and conservative-leaning leftists. They're all kind of like majority of the country, and they're just kind of standing around looking at everybody going like, you're a bunch of fucking idiots.
Yeah.
You've got two extremes on either side, and we're just kind of sitting in the middle going, since when did common sense become super sense, to quote our good friend Script Doctor? You know, it's like that's what it seems like it's become, because if it was common, more people would have it, obviously. So it's just, no, that's where we've reached this world where just because she doesn't totally jump on the same train as every one of them, they automatically point at her like Donald Sutherland in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah. You know, and I want to go back to what you said earlier, Tom, which is that, of course, there's a Civil War Lucasfilm. I've recently been hearing as well people saying, "Oh, that's just a lot of I'm like, where's this coming from? After a few years of this, people are now doubting that there's a Civil War Lucasfilm. It's only been accelerating since Jon Favreau's success with at least getting Mandalorian back on a track that's similar to the original Star Wars, and then the massive success with Luke Skywalker's return. I personally believe, yes, like I continue to hope that this is not Gina being let go from the show or any other nonsense. And I choose, until we hear otherwise, I'm going to believe that that's not the case, right? I don't think Jon Favreau wants to let her go. I don't think the bean counters want to let her go. I do think that cultist faction inside of Lucasfilm would love for her to go. And yeah, there's some exec there within that faction made a call, and took care and did this. And I don't know that it got higher up approval than that. So that's their stab back, in the same way that Mr. Hidalgo, who's an exec within that group, created that unnecessary drama by mocking that fan who, Star Wars Theory, for his very genuine emotional reaction to Luke returning. And I think in the same way that Mr. Hidalgo created a massive backlash enough that somebody Disney told him, call that guy and apologize to him, right? I think that now that this is getting out there, there's going to be a backlash again against this cult, saying that, what's wrong with you? We all love Gina. Are you thinking of firing her? What are you doing? And that's going to increase her prominence inside there as people come to her support. And I urge people to come to her support, send nice, positive emails to Disney and to Lucasfilm or to their marketing, whatever, or post on your social media in support of Gina. Don't have to be negative, just in support of her, how much she's loved. Because I think she needs that right now if the cult is focusing on her.
Yeah.
And
And
carry on, Tom.
Let's say Mutan's right here. Imagine deleting a character loved around the world just because the progressive American agenda. What a narrow view. Yeah, and a lot of people were calling it petty in the chat earlier, and yeah, it is petty, but it's actually worse than that. It's scarier than that. It's dangerous.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with pettiness. This is insidious. Is the word here? That's what it is.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a deliberate reaction to her not bending the knee, as Andre said, and I couldn't believe this. Like, as I said before, I knew there was a separation within Lucasfilm, but when I heard about all the Gina Carano shit, I'm like, come on, that's bullshit. Why would there ever be anybody within Lucasfilm who would have anything against her, considering how popular she is? She's a big part of the show, and you're right on. If they got rid of her right now, the backlash would be probably just as bad as the Last Jedi backlash, because what few fans you have left, you're pretty much shitting all over them, and they've had enough of it. It's you want to see a mostly peaceful protest from Star Wars fans, you're about to get it if you do that.
And it's my understanding still is that she's going to be a central feature of the Star Wars Rangers show, right? Because I don't know who else would be. Who else would carry that? I don't know any other character, right? I mean, who's gonna? We already know Boba Fett's going to do his thing, with Ming-Na Wen. He's going to go do that, and then who's going to run this show? Who's going to be the face of the show? It's not. We know that Ahsoka Tano is going to be doing her thing. So if they're actually going to do this Star Wars Rangers show, it's Gina or bust, right? And I don't know. I mean, unless you want to throw that thing in about.
Yeah. And I think that you are entirely right. I think that this is something that someone from the Kennedy faction did. That, Jon Favreau, he's completely in charge of the Mandalorian and everything like that, but the Kennedy faction may be in charge of the marketing and the artwork and everything like that. And I'm sure there was someone, and it may not even be that high up, but some guy who's like looking at Gina and is probably getting PTSD just looking at her, because she reminds him of, or him or her, maybe it's a her, I don't want to be gendering anyone here, But basically, just seeing her reminds the individual that made this call of, the individual who is the cause of of all of the derangement syndrome, and just can't stand it and decide that no, this individual has to go, and then everyone on Twitter is going to love us. We're not going to do anything to give this person any more credit, anything like that. So we're going to put this other female in there instead. So, yeah, I think it's as simple as that. This was done without Favreau knowing, and I'm quite certain that to Favreau, this is going to be like, this is just like yet another strike in the civil war within Lucasfilm.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's already heard of it. If we're talking about it, Mr. Favreau knows about it. He's very aware of what's happening on social media. He's very aware of it. And if we're talking about it right now, he's already been told about it. And I'd like to believe, and I'm sure he is angry. Right, it's like, here we go again. I have to put out this fire now, just like I had to put out Hidalgo's fire. Yeah. Who knows who could call Hidalgo to make that call? It could have been Mr. Favreau himself, because he was getting such incredible personal accolades from Mark Hamill himself, was saying thank you, Dave, thank you, John, and that
Reed and all that, yeah.
That was trending on Twitter, and that was something people were writing news articles about. And then a few days later, this moron comes out and says, makes his negative comment about a fan crying. And I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Favreau himself or someone he directed to made that call, because it's a personal attack on what he's trying to do. Because he also is not actually trying to do anything negative or political. He's just trying to make Star Wars, right? I don't know what Jon Favreau's politics are. I don't. I wouldn't be surprised if they're closer to Mark Hamill's and Gina Carano's. That's where most people in this industry are. I'm closer to Gina, right? But that's mostly interesting. But he's just trying to make something he loves, and have these guys keep creating drama is a real pain in the ass for this for Mr. Favreau.
Yeah, especially when it's coming from inside your own company.
Yeah.
And that's also a brilliant thing for Favreau. As you said, we don't know his politics. And how fantastic is that? Because that is something that means that he's not a divisive figure. Because right now, there's one side and one side only that has caused the divide. And that is the same side that is being insidious right now. They are the ones that are politicizing, and they are the ones that are causing the split. Of course, then they blame the other side, but that's what that kind of people will do. But anyway, Favreau, he has not stated where he stands, and we don't know. And that's brilliant. That's fantastic, because that only means that he focuses on making the greatest possible content, something that will unite everyone, no matter where they may stand in terms of politics, religion, or anything else. He makes something that's truly uniting, which is something that everyone could need right about now. And from where I'm watching, especially you guys in the States, could really use that right about now. And then come the Kennedy faction and find something more to create division. And I'm pretty sure that right now in this moment, Favreau is aware of this. And I think that he's going to be fully behind Gina Carano. As you say, Kamran, this is only going to make her stronger. It's going to make her more of a fan favorite, because what's going to happen right now is that when we and everyone else bring attention to this, everyone is going to see, okay, here is someone that we like under threat. We're going to rally behind her and show our support. And Favreau is going to notice, and Bob's Iger and Chapek are probably going to notice too, that with Favreau and even with Gina Carano, there is money. And that is one thing that Kathleen Kennedy and her faction has, if anything, emptied Disney coffers of.
Yeah, they squandered it, and so it's this one thing I'll say about this faction is that what's remarkable is all they do is screw up their own plans. All they've ever done is create backlash on their agenda. All they've ever done is push their agenda further back. And that's why they're getting more and more frantic, right? Because everything they've ever done has caused a response that forces Disney to get off of what they do, right? Being drunk off of Force Awakens, they decided to do their plan to The Last Jedi. And then immediately a worldwide backlash happened that created an entire industry on YouTube. We're all talking because of that, right? It created a whole world. And as a result, the backlash was they tried to erase that in the next movie. Poorly done, but they tried it. And then they tried to get things back on track. Everything these guys do pushes their agenda backwards. I think in their minds, they see themselves as like the Maquis in France fighting the Nazi occupation. They're trapped in this Nazi evil, Disney empire, and they're just fighting for the good fight. And well, I was like, man, but you keep losing, man. Everything you do blows up in your face, and this will blow up in their face.
Yeah, not only that, they are extreme ideologues themselves, and they are everything that they accuse the other side of being, only worse. But yeah, that's just my observation. I was going to get down that road. But before we move on to the next topic, because I think we've said pretty much everything there is to say about this particular topic, I want to hear what you have to say. So let's go through the remaining super chats.
Yes.
El Punk Tres sends a devil super sticker for 99 cents, so thanks for that. And Alex Serra says, more pissing contests at the Lucasfilm. Could have sworn it was Monday. Broken record time. Lovely gents, when will the bottom fall out?
That's a good question. I don't think it's going to anytime soon here, and this is what I've been trying to say to people, where everybody's like, "Oh, the pendulum's swinging. Where they can't keep doing this without money." I was like, money is not the issue, because they're just going to keep blaming every failure on us, and it's this created fake trend that they're pushing in Hollywood. And that's the thing, is they think that the rest of the world is just like them. And when they see somebody like Gina, they key in on them because they're, not one of us, not one of us, like it's just like a disease. It's anyway.
Yeah, and here's like the thing, that they may think that the world is like them, but in reality, they are a little North Korea all of their own. But moving on, Stephanie Janisek's Smuggler's Cantina says, from one Norwegian to another, yo, Andre, you're Norwegian? Well, awesome. Okay. And Jersan Riv says, for 50 Mexican dollars, Kamran, you were great at Unsafe Space. I love when you're a guest in any channel. Hail Planet Pluto. Your insight always interesting. And I agree with that completely. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Pluto's the ninth planet. It will always be the ninth planet. That's my mantra.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Roger Haynes sends a thumbs up super sticker, so thanks for that. And Spider Unlimited says, what makes Gina so awesome is that she's not political. She's a realist and has logic/sense. Yes, that's what I see coming from, basically not from your country. When I see her tweets, I see common sense, and that's it. Mr. Tickletrunk says, I hate that Twitter is always used to take the temperature of the room in media. It's where the loud jerks reign, not the average fan. And then he says, also, have Kamran on more. Level-headed supreme. A thumbs up.
We try to as much as we can. He's an in-demand individual, but we definitely will have him on as much as possible. Yeah.
Thank you. And then Wintrell says for $10, thank you so much, guys, Disney is watching this. All players within Midnight's Edge has now become a major litmus test for the success of Star Wars. Bravo. I hope that is true. Kamran, you've worked for Disney. Could there be any truth to that?
Help me understand that too. What I didn't quite grasp it when you read it. What are they saying there?
I'll say it one more time. He says, guys, Disney is watching this, as in this live stream. Mm-hmm. All players within Midnight's Edge has now become a major litmus test for the success of Star Wars.
Yeah, I would actually think that is true. I know for a fact that Disney has people following social media accounts and, following, I was on with Doomcock, yesterday, and I was talking about that he knows, I mean, he's been told that they're following him, and I'm sure they're following Midnight's Edge because it is also like Doomcock. It's one of the sites out there that's not just providing commentary, it's actually breaking information. And so they have people assigned to watch broadly social media, but I know their attention is on this channel. I know it. And so hopefully they're watching this right now and feeding back to Favreau and his team. Look, here we go. Midnight's Edge, a few 100,000 people are going to be seeing this, and this is not going to be good. We've got to clean this Gina Carano thing up right now.
Yeah, exactly. I can also say that I actually happen to know that they are watching, but I wanted your take on it. It means more coming from you than if I say, "Oh yeah, it's true. Disney is watching this, and so is CBS."
And then Disney's watching, going, "Hey, did we fire this guy? Did we fire this guy from Tron Uprising? What's he still around?"
Yeah.
Tron Uprising is now on Disney XD. I subscribed to Disney XD finally. When I heard Luke was back, I wouldn't do it before. When Luke was back, I subscribed, and I finally watched, The Mandalorian, which I really did enjoy. And Tron Uprising, the show that I was the head writer for and fired from, is available there. So everyone should go watch it because it's a good show. And the first half of it is my genius. Second half of it, I can't make any comment.
What's funny
I just want to say that I fully concur. Tron Uprising is really, really good, especially the first half. Yeah. And then it kind of lost its way a little bit after that. And also, Tron Legacy is one of the best times I ever had in a movie theater in my entire life. But yeah, Tom, you were saying.
Well, last night on Mead, we got like a dozen questions about Tron. So hopefully those people that were wondering about those things show up today. But they were asking us left and right. And I'm like, tomorrow we got Kamran Pasha on. He actually worked on Tron Uprising. Come on and ask him. Because basically they were asking, because there was a lot of people asking about, is there going to be a revival? And we're like, yeah, the whole Jared Leto thing's going on. As far as we know, it's not going to have any real attachment to the classic stuff. And, with the shape that Jeff Bridges is in right now, I highly doubt he's going to have any part of it. And, all that business, and they were asking us a million questions I didn't have the answers for. Look,
like I said, I'm out of the Tron world because they kicked me out. But
right.
I'd like to believe that Tron, I know Tron's going to come back in some form, right? With Jared Leto. And then I think now that Tron Uprising is on Disney XD, and I think it's actually being watched. I mean, kids are watching it. There's fans for it. I mean, I'm suddenly getting a wave of people contacting me saying, "Hey man, when you were involved in Tron, it's a great show. This is 10 years later, right? I was involved 10 years ago. Now I'm getting all these emails." So people are watching it. Again, Disney's aware of what the fans are doing on Disney XD. So I'm hoping some version of Tron Uprising continues on that, or more animated stuff in the world of Tron will continue now that they're seeing there's money there. The one thing I will say is, while I was involved in the animated show, I actually briefly got to sit in and watch one of the reshoots for the Tron film, and I'm sitting there, and it was very nice. The director was there; he very graciously let us come in and sit behind him, watch the reshoots, and there's Olivia Wilde dressed up in her Tron suit. I'm like, my God, she's incredibly hot, and I'm like 5 feet away from her. I can't believe this is happening. So it's all good.
Yeah. She was stunning in that movie, wasn't she?
Oh my God, I'm in a room with Olivia Wilde. Is this really happening?
In that suit. Yeah, exactly. But yeah. Anyway, we have a few more super chats before we move on. And the one I would do first is the one on screen. Mr. Chickletrunk says, "If Disney is watching, hey Disney, eat my shorts. Instead of talking down to us, respect storytelling and you get our money. You like money, right?" Yeah, they should.
They absolutely do. And, I really believe the reason that Gina was able to just make her general positive comments and refuse to bend the knee all this summer at the emotions of the election, and she still never bent the knee. She never left Twitter. She just kept being herself. It's because she was given the green light by, Favreau or someone saying, just be yourself. Don't get overtly into politics. I'm sure they said that to her, but, we like you. And that's why I choose to believe she's still safe.
Yeah, indeed. And True Dope has some questions about Tron Uprising, and I'd love to get into that, but we'll do that after the second main topic. Then we'll get
and I already answered this question in particular, which is that I don't know that what their plans are. I'd like to believe that now that people are watching it on Disney XD and it's becoming successful on that, 10 years later, they're like, okay, we can make money on this. Let's bring this back.
Fingers crossed. I'd love to see not a reboot, but a continuation, because I love the end of that. I just want to see it continue, not in a completely different direction, but just from where it was. But
I think with Leto on board, it's going in a different direction. But that's just me, my opinion. I have no idea.
We'll see.
Probably, but we'll see. And moving on from there, Thunderstorm said, and again, this is now so old that I can't bring it up on screen, so you'll just have to listen carefully. Thunderstorm says, "I like the character Rey played by Daisy Ridley. Horrible writing." So yeah, that wasn't Ridley's fault. She did what she could. And Stephanie Yanni said, yeah, carry on.
No, she's a good actress, and none of them deserved this bad writing. She didn't deserve it. you know, you know, Kelly Marie Tran especially didn't deserve the garbage writing she was given. These are all talented actors who, you know, didn't deserve what was done to them.
Indeed. And Stephanie Janisek says, Magler's Cantina says, Gina Carano hasn't been on Instagram in a few days, for your information. That could mean anything, so let's not read too much into that.
I wouldn't read too much into that. I mean, I would guess that, like everyone, she's tired of the bad vibes of this week. This week, with all the changes, there's a lot of
could be working too.
Yeah, she could be working too. I think people need a break from social media, especially at a volatile time like the last few days. So I would not read into it.
No, exactly. And Joe Pat 87 says KK is Britta Perry. LOL. I have no idea who that is, but maybe it means
no idea. Must be a character or something I'm not aware of. Yeah.
No. And Willie Woodward just sent us a $1 donation, so thanks for that. And Pablo Papano says Gina would have a discrimination suit on her hands if they let her go. I don't know that she would. But
I mean, and I don't know that in general, when you sue somebody, when you sue like that, it's pretty much the end of your career in this town, because you might even win or get a settlement, but then nobody wants to work with you because then they're scared of lawsuits. So one of the first things I learned in this town is you sue when you want to end your career.
Yeah, exactly. If you just want to, if you're like on the way out anyway, then you might as well. But she has a long way for us. I don't think so. And then final one before we get into the next topic. King of Hearts 985 says, have you guys seen the clip of John Campia downplaying the Pablo Hidalgo tweet?
I heard about it. I didn't see the tweet. I don't know what was the content.
No, but it doesn't really surprise me. Campia is he's a fence sitter. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I respect him for getting behind Robert Meyer Burnett when he did. And, you know, like a lot of people in this industry, he's one of the people that kind of, you know, that I first realized, oh, you know, there's this thing on YouTube where people can talk about movies and stuff. You know, it's not just cat videos and shit. But he has some of the worst takes in fucking the world. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I will say for John Campia is I don't want to like disparage the man in any way. He stood by Robert Meyer Burnett when they came for him, so massive kudos to that. Burnett has nothing but great stuff to say about him. He was an inspiration to us all. Every one of us who is in this sphere, we were one way or the other inspired by John Campia. That being said, he is triggered when it comes to personal politics, and he does not like the ones that are attached to Gina Carano. And he does like the ones that are attached to Pablo Hidalgo. So he may be a little bit partisan right there, and I do not think that clip did him any favors with audiences, although it probably did within the industry. And he is someone that has to stay connected with the industry. He has to be like on good terms with people who are, how do we put it, who want to be on the right side politically. So I don't think anyone should like use that too much against him, but yeah, that was not a good look for him. And with that, let's move on to the second main topic of today, which is more about Kathleen Kennedy, who yet again put her foot in her mouth, or actually not really, but she could possibly be accused of having misled investors a tiny little bit.
I think it's more like she has no clue what she's talking about, as always. But
that could also be the case. Because
what was the comment? I don't know what the comment was.
Getting to it, because what she said during like this December Investor Day, which was when they announced all of these shows going forward, then they were also talking about the Cassian Andor show and how that was going to reunite the actor playing Cassian Andor with Alan Tudyk, who played the robot, who was everyone's fan favorite character. Like that's what we've all been saying here. Like Cassian Andor, like a prequel based on a prequel of a guy that died like 2 prequels ago before the original series. Like, why do you want to go back even further and explore them even more? But okay, with the robot, it might work. But then, now it appears that Alan Tudyk himself has confirmed, I'm not in the first season. Maybe I'll be in the second one, I don't know, but I'm not there right now. And they're shooting now, and I'm not part of it. So there goes the fan favorite, like the one saving grace, the one thing that people were interested in seeing. And he basically just proved Kathleen Kennedy at best to be uninformed and at worst to be a liar. And
or worse, she doesn't even have control over this simple casting thing. That's how disconnected she may be. She may have intended that, but people are like, well, thanks for your opinion. We're just going to do it this way.
Yeah, is that possible? And who would be the one that made that choice if they don't have the fan favorite standout character from the movie? What's then the point of doing this prequel?
Well, this is. I think that this is part of sort of Disney has given her, okay, this is your stuff. You go do this stuff while we're going to do this stuff with Favreau, right? So my guess is she probably is in charge of this thing because this Cassian Andor was really one of the things that she, Rogue One I thought was a good movie, and it's one of the only good things that was done under her regime. And so I'm sure she's been given, okay, you could do that. You didn't screw that up. And with her management style, I wouldn't be surprised if she just thinks that this is the buildup, again, her thinking, well, Luke Skywalker was a surprise in the second season. We're going to do a surprise with a robot in the second season. I was like, yeah, but nobody was expecting Luke Skywalker to come back after what you did to him. So it was a wonderful surprise, right? Whereas with this, everyone is invested in, man, that robot's cool. I've seen, when people watch that robot get blown up a robot, they cried more than they did for any of the characters because we care about that, right? And so it's just like, I think this is just maybe bad management where she's thinking she's pacing the story, but she's not. Because we just want to see, it's just like without R2-D2 and C-3PO, the Star Wars loses its heart. And that's the genius of Jon Favreau, is that even it wasn't just Luke, it's R2 that comes back. And Grogu doesn't want to go yet with Luke until R2 comes, and suddenly he sees another childlike energy and he goes to R2, right? Jon Favreau understands the robots pull people in, especially charismatic robots like the one that Mr. Tudyk played.
Absolutely. And sorry, yeah, your mic's making weird noises, Andre. It's yours.
Okay.
Yeah. I figured it out. I thought it was Cameron's. It's yours. No, and honestly, I think it's more so a thing of Kathy. Either she's what you said, Cameron, or she's just completely out of the loop. And I'm curious if it's not the second one because, and it's been this way since the whole Iger situation, because remember Mandalorian, when that came out, it was like everything was fine, everything's dandy. And then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, Obi-Wan's getting delayed. Why? Because the stories are too much like Mandalorian. It's like, well, where the hell was she at? Where was somebody else at? Why didn't somebody go, oh, by the way, we might want to fix this?
We can see from her management style, she doesn't take the time to really process the stories that are given to her. That's why, apparently she doesn't even take the time to watch the dailies, because that's how you got Solo on, 70, 80% finished. She's like, well, it's not the movie I want to make. How did you get this far into the process? I mean, I've worked on shows where after the first day of dailies, we get the call from the studio saying, hey man, this isn't what we asked for. Get it on track. The next morning we get the call. Like, get this on track. What's wrong with you? So I don't know how she runs things. I think she's spending most of her time at cocktail parties and giving speeches. She's not actually running that place, even when she was in charge.
Yeah, because that was like the incredible thing with Solo, that they practically filmed the entire movie. So I would imagine that she probably hadn't seen a single set of dailies until like on day 80 when she saw like a rough cut or something, and then she probably had a
saw a rough cut. I'm guessing exactly. She saw a rough cut and she's like, what? Is this a comedy? What is this? And it's like, I mean, I'm sure she thought watching dailies was beneath her, because you can't get that far into a movie. And it's when she saw a rough assemblage that she decided this isn't what she wanted.
Well, not just that. Like, look, you go in and you're like, okay, I'm going to explain to you. The Obi-Wan series is like, let's just assume that this is what it was. Young Luke is compromised, and Obi-Wan has to work with whoever to do something to save Luke. So you have a Jedi, taking this young kid or whatever, and they're doing whatever with him, blah, 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 blah. Well, then, you hear that, and then somebody said, yeah, by the way, the Mandalorian's about this. We got this young Jedi kid, and he's being saved, and blah, 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 blah. Like, at some point, don't you think somebody go, oh, that's a little similar. We should probably work on that. No, she literally announces the show. The Obi-Wan show is now written. They have X amount of episodes written, and this was how many months before Mandalorian even premiered, Andre? At least 6 months, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that.
Because it was at D23, I think this was. So that would have been the summer before. So then Mandalorian happens. After Mandalorian premieres, they announce Obi-Wan's being delayed, and the reason is, and this is not us making any assumptions or our sources said or anything like that. This was in the actual quotes, was because the storylines were too similar. You had how long to notice this? I mean, and that's the other thing when people are like, oh, well, KK is definitely part of Mandalorian. If she is, then why didn't she notice that these two things were too much alike? Because obviously that's what the other one must have been about then. Because otherwise, why are they so similar? It's just so stupid to me. And it just shows how outside of the ring she is. And it really bothers me that we have this civil war, or we've been calling it more of a Cold War lately because a lot of people are arguing about it. And I don't care what you call it. It's obvious now. Like, this is more than enough proof for me. We've seen enough things. We've heard enough about Galaxy's Edge business. Just it seems like, with this High Republic stuff, the Pablo Hidalgo thing, there's too much proof now. If somebody wants to argue with me, I'm not going to listen to them no more. And with this whole thing with Gina Carano, I'm just done. If they fuck this, I'm yeah. Anyway, Andre, yeah, I think your mic is working better now. So.
Yeah, well, there's good to hear that at least. So yeah, no, it's completely unbelievable how it's possible for an executive. I mean, I would understand if it wasn't the very, very top, but someone that's set to run a film division, and they kind of sleep on the job because they decide, okay, I'm kind of middle management here, and there's someone both below me that handles things day to day, and someone above me that will check that up, so I can just sit back and go to my white clothes parties or whatever. But no, she's the head of the studio, and she apparently doesn't watch dailies. She apparently doesn't monitor the scripting process until it's done. And in a case of this, she apparently doesn't even know which actors are going to come in and when. Or, and this is what I was thinking, she basically just told this knowing that this is for investors and we need to prop up Disney stock any way we can. And we're going to bring him to it eventually. We're just going to say it right now so people are excited for the one cool thing. But then we are going to space it, and we're going to focus on the character that we liked, although the fans didn't really care about him so much.
Oh, go ahead.
The question I have is, and I thought about this when this was greenlit, I'm like, with all respect, and I enjoyed Cassian Andor's character. I love the droid. I liked Rogue One a lot. Who wants to watch the show? We know the dude's going to die. I mean, who wants to watch the show?
I don't see Juan Solo kill people. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we know how this is going to end. And so we also know that, he's going to survive everything that happens here, right? Because we know how he ends, right? So the mystery of where the show is going is kind of gone. Every episode, you're he's good. It's not like where people are saying, well, in the Mandalorian, is Pedro Pascal going to be let go? Is he walking off the set? There's some drama because we don't know what's going to happen with that character. We don't know how long it's going to survive. We don't know the future. They might kill that character off to focus on the rest of the franchise. There's a investment in the future of that character. I know where Cassian Andor is going, so I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You know what reminds me of? With the whole Alien and Prometheus thing. Yeah. To me, this is that, only backwards. Mm-hmm. You have a prequel, and then you make a prequel to the prequel, and you know exactly how it's going to end.
Yeah, and poorly written. I mean, nonsensical movies.
Well, it's not only that; it's the most. It's one of the characters that nobody gives a shit about. That's why I jokingly call him Casio Keyboard, because nobody knows who the fuck he is,
and nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Now, if you're saying we're making a series about the blind monk and his partner, then people would care, because there's probably an infinitely more interesting story to tell there. We already kind of know what Casio Keyboard, whatever you want to call it, Cassian Andor, has already done to get to this point. We've seen a little bit of that in Rogue One. So we can kind of deduce, yeah, this guy's done some dirty shit. He's the grunt work guy. He's the guy who's had to kill people and whatnot, done all the things that nobody wants to talk about in the rebellion. You know, the dirty work. And I remember what I was going to say before I got distracted. The other thing that Kathy has done to prove that she's obviously on the outside is just like, look at the situation with Leia. When they flat out asked her about Leia in Rise of Skywalker, and she's like, oh no, Carrie Fisher's brother's mistaken. It's like, no, you're the one that's mistaken, because everybody else knows what's going on, but you evidently don't. You know, it was clear at that moment, I think, to me. But like, again, we're in the same spot we are then, and that was my other point I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, this whole thing with Miss Kennedy's management of this thing is just embarrassing. It gets more embarrassing with time, right? At this point, it's clear to me that she's literally sitting at home I'm sure in a very nice home, getting paychecks, right? And the problem is she's left behind these, what I call the flying monkeys, which is her cult, and they're the ones that are creating all this drama. These little people that are spread throughout like spiders throughout Lucasfilm, creating drama. That's her legacy, which is this nonsense. She's not doing nothing there.
No.
Yeah, indeed. It boggles the mind that George Lucas wanted her hired there in the first place. And what boggles me even more is that Iger didn't remove her when he saw the writing on the wall. And before we move on, Kamran, I want your thought on this.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some things, but I just want your thought. Why hasn't Iger stepped in more? We know he stepped in a little bit. He even told the Hollywood Reporter that the buck stops with me now.
Well, he pretty much created for himself.
Yeah,
he created a new position for himself, head of head of creative, I think it was.
Yeah, he's sort of like this. Yeah, the mysterious figure behind the throne now, even though no one is actually looking at the throne, just looking at him, right? So yeah.
He's the power behind the power, but still, she is there, and she's obviously still mucking things up. She's undercuts Favreau, who is doing good by Star Wars. Why is she still there, in your view? Like anyone else would have been fired many times over.
I will give you the surface level that I think is undeniable, and then I'll give you my conspiracy theory, which I have no basis for except just the nature of who I am, which is seeing conspiracies everywhere because they're real. The surface level is that she's incredibly well connected. I mean, I think she's burned her relation with George Lucas, but I think she has a great relation with Steven Spielberg. She's been a major part of this industry for decades. I met her, almost 20 years ago, and perfectly nice conversation with her. And she's hugely successful. Her name is on all these movies going back to Indiana Jones and E.T. and all this stuff. So she's seen as this bedrock of Hollywood. Granted, it's now clear that she wasn't as influential in the development of any of those movies. The moment she was given authority, she couldn't handle it at all, right? And that's clear now. But all these relationships, and this industry is, at the end of the day, this industry is about keeping your relationships with a cocktail party, right? You don't want drama. You don't want to have an uncomfortable moment where you have to walk into the same event and there's this executive who you fired, right? Who's there with Steven Spielberg, and that's going to burn your relationship with Spielberg. So that's there. There's also, so now we're getting closer to my conspiracy, but this is also deeper, but it's also still verifiable, which is that I think that, if they let her go, she would immediately start saying this was all discrimination because I'm a woman and all that stuff, right? Because that card is pulled by everyone in this town. It is not about, so you're making a sexist comment. Everyone I know who is incompetent, who gets called on it, tries to pull a legal card. And if they're in any way a minority or can claim to be one, they will pull that you're discriminated against, right? I've seen it with my own eyes. People that are let go from shows because they don't know what they're doing will come back and threaten to sue, saying you let me go because of X, Y, and Z. And the studio usually pays them out or, gives, or it doesn't even let them go, knowing that's a possibility, we'll just arrange for them to exit with a big paycheck or exit to another position where they're less harmful. And I've seen that with my own eyes, and I'm sure she has that. And then we'll go to my conspiracy theory, was that I think that everyone in this town at that level of the game has goods on each other. I think people are in this world, certainly in the industry at that level, are involved in a lot of shady personal things they all know about. And I think nobody wants that kind of stuff. There's a lot of blackmail that happens at that level of the game, and nobody wants embarrassing personal things being put out there. And all of them know that stuff about each other. And I don't have any proof that Miss Kennedy has blackmail on these people. I just know that at the level of the game, that's a real thing.
Well, she almost doesn't really need the blackmail at this point. Like, I got to constantly remind people, like, our good friend Doomcock and other people, she is the single most powerful woman in Hollywood, hands down. Like, there's nobody who is probably more powerful than her, I'm willing to bet. She may even be more powerful than Oprah when it comes down to it, because of the people she knows, the things she's done, the places she's been. And regardless of what bridges she may have burned at this point, I mean, and again, I'm just speculating, but to Andre's answer, I'm not even so sure that they can fire her. Like, that's the thing. Because if they could have, why wouldn't they have a long time ago? Like, that's the thing. And again, it could be they're writing it out. We know that it's the Amy Pascal effect. Even if they do get rid of her, she's still part of the contract kind of deal. Like, it's any number of those things. And then on top of just the whole, optics of it, she doesn't necessarily have to have anything on anybody, really.
But I still think they all do, because they all do at that level. That's just my belief. So whatever.
Oh, I'm sure she does, but
doesn't mean you have to pull out of the safe.
Well, that's one thing that I wondered, because she's obviously powerful, but I think that she was at the zenith of her power when she first got hired to Lucasfilm, and probably after The Force Awakens. But since then, I know it's an open secret in Hollywood that she botched this badly. Wouldn't that, like, she's still powerful, but wouldn't that, like, relatively reduce her power with everyone knowing, yeah, she messed this up? Because everyone does.
Yeah, everyone does. I mean, people privately who are not at that level, just fellow filmmakers. I had friends of mine who were actually slated. There was going to, before The Mandalorian, there was going to be a Boba Fett show. It had evolved from a movie to a show, and they were going to be on the writing staff of that. And right after Solo failed, they told me, look, the next day that Solo, the results came in, they said, we just got a call saying they're pulling Boba Fett and we're out, right? And then suddenly The Mandalorian comes into being, which is essentially, Boba Fett, but done differently. And so these people had said to me, and these are not people that are, that necessarily even share my political views and stuff like that. They simply said, yeah, she doesn't know what she's doing. And they'll say it privately, unlike me, who's saying things on that Disney's like, hey, this guy's talking here. Didn't we fire him? Right? they are keeping that inside, but it's a very common, statement in the industry that she doesn't know what she's doing. I've only met one person who ever defended her, who's a friend of mine, who's a big producer, but his thing is he defends everybody who's in power. That's just what he does. It's just, it keeps him on. He never says anything negative about anybody in power. It keeps him on the right track.
No, and we see that in other places too. I mean, we've talked to people in private that we've, talked with, and they'll even stick up for people like Kurtzman. And I get it. It's a power thing, and it's even, I got to commend you for sitting here and talking about these things the way you are, because obviously it's not something that's going to help your career.
Well, people are aware that I'm doing this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not, yeah.
People know, just like they're watching this, they're like, hey, this guy's actually not on the fringe. He's actually in this game. He's actually creating stuff and worked at a high level in TV. Why is this guy talking? That's not that smart. And they're probably right. It isn't that smart. But I've talked earlier about my own experiences being sort of an outsider in this town as a Muslim guy. I've already been through I don't want to hire you, not because you're not the right guy. I just don't like you. I've already been through that. I've been through 20 years of that. So I don't care anymore.
Here's the best thing I like about it is, aside from the fact that you are, not only just, a fan, obviously, because we can tell just from talking to you that about the stuff that we're talking about. So that's a great thing, is to see a fan in the industry. But not only that, you're somebody who is not white, who is standing up and saying, look, fuck you and your,
whatever,
your bullshit politics. I don't want you to hire me because of the color of my skin. I want you to hire me because of my talent, because of my knowledge, and that's what we need to see more of, especially with things like Star Wars, Star Trek, and everything. Like we keep saying with Star Trek, it's like, when are these people going to realize, and I don't mean like these people in quotations, I'm talking about people who are non-white and not men, basically come out and say, wait a minute, we're being used as circus freaks here. Because they literally are. They're like, basically, look at our token black woman leader, look at our token gay couple, look at our token this, token that. And it's gotten to that point where it's like, and I'm happy to finally see people wake up and go, wait a minute, now I'm not going to be used as your token anything. You can go fuck yourself.
John Boyer did that.
Yeah.
I mean, he caused massive shockwaves when he did that, because he's a prominent actor, and for him to say that really shook up a lot of people. And I heard that Kathleen Kennedy called him personally. I think he mentioned that interview. I'm sure she did, because that shook her up. Because nobody wants to have that put out there, much less in the media. the truth of how this town works. Nobody wants that mask coming off.
Yeah, I actually, on that note, that's something that I want to ask about, because I have equated The Last Jedi to a golden calf within the industry, a false idol that everyone fell behind and worshipped. And you see some of this still with there's some heavy what's the word I'm looking for? Well, basically like heavy mental inconsistency. They can't come to terms with it, that this is something that they praised that was so amazing. And then John Boyega comes out and he speaks out, like, look what was done to my character. And then you have others that have said the same thing for Rose Tico's character, like, why was she sidelined, and why was Finn paired with her instead of with Rey as was set up? Like, what's this? So the movie is like holding up worse and worse. And the worst of all was then, of course, with Boyega coming out in public. You said this caused shockwaves. Did it cause any kind of like buyer's remorse in terms of how supported they have all been of the movie at the time, when it clearly isn't holding up?
In private conversations, I've never heard a single person say they like The Last Jedi. Not one amongst filmmakers, writers, directors. Not one person has said they like The Last Jedi in private conversations with me. The ones that have been doing so, I noticed a lot. There were a lot of people that were trying to get attention from like Rian Johnson, like actors. There was I won't say his name. There was an actor I worked with on a TV show, and I thought I had a perfectly good relationship with him. In my early days, when I criticized The Last Jedi on Twitter, before I was like, man, as a fan, I was like, this movie doesn't work. This guy who's got several 100,000 followers, right, decided, and I'd worked with him. I was a producer with him. I had been his boss, right? Decided to take my tweet, retweet it, and mock me and say, man, maybe you should just stick to writing. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, dude, we have a professional relationship. Why are you doing this, right? And then all of his dumb fans were like it, and I texted. I was like, come on, man. I mean, let me have my opinions, but why are you mocking me to your fans? And then he deleted it when I said that, but the damage was done, and the damage is done with the relationship. I mean, it's like, I'm never going to work with this guy again, right? But I know why he did it. He wasn't the star of our show, but he's a guy that wants to get attention. And so he was hoping Rian Johnson would see it and see that at the time, Rian Johnson, like I said, was the golden calf. He was the figure that was being held up as Moses or Aaron to these people, right? And he just wanted to get that guy in that guy's good graces. Ever since all this came out, he's become incredibly silent, because all of that, he didn't like that movie. He just wanted to kiss the right butts in order to get attention. And now that movie, it's no longer the minority opinion that movie is a bad movie and it's racist and all this. Stars are saying it. He's become incredibly silent. But it really showed me the low character of people that I had worked with that would actually use me to try to get Rian Johnson's attention. And like, well, first of all, Rian Johnson is never going to hire you. You're not important enough as an actor for him to care about you. And number two, I'm not going to hire you again. We're done, right? So what did we get out of it?
Yeah, I want to highlight a point from or comment from the viewers. Joel Rice says, damn, listening to this. Hollywood is described perfectly by Obi-Wan Kenobi. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Now, that's actually been used to describe us here at Midnight's Edge as well, but I think it's probably more
a couple times.
Well, you know, look, Lucas wrote that script, and Lucas was already fed up with Hollywood by the time he was doing Star Wars, right? And so he'd already been through American Graffiti, he'd been through his industry stuff. He hated the industry by then. He hated the studio system by then. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a subtext.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. He's basically said those words in so many words about Hollywood.
White slavers to talk about Disney. That's balls, man.
Yeah, that was ballsy. I will have to give him that. That was pretty stunning. So yeah, but I think we have. I don't think there's much more to say about the topic we started out with. So I'm going to go through some more super chats, and then we'll move on from there. PNR Comp Guy says, Emmy, love you guys. Disney done F with Gina. Kamran, Tron Uprising was a must-see for me, and I could tell when it was falling apart midstream. My thanks.
I was fired midstream. I was like, away you go. I was like, okay, good. I said, this is what's going to happen to your show. Good luck. And that's exactly what I predicted.
Yeah, that's what I was telling him last night. I was like, yeah, basically, like you were saying, when most people agreed the show went downhill is when you got tossed. And I'm willing to bet that anything that you guys had planned was also tossed. And
it literally was. The meeting where I was fired, I thought was a meeting to talk about the second half of the season. I came in to that meeting with my plan book, right? And at the end of that meeting, I was like, all right, well, you can have this. And they're like, literally just sit it aside. I said, okay, good luck. I know. I told them in that meeting because, you know, the reason I was fired is I was too blunt and I wouldn't play the Disney politics. And I was saying, okay, we need to fix this problem and fix that problem. And they didn't want to hear it. And so I said, okay, this is what's going to happen as I'm leaving now. I said, this show is going to be canceled. You've invested a lot of money in this, a huge amount of money in this. You will not have a second season. The journey that you're on, and since you're not listening to me, you're not going to fix these problems. You're going to bring in a yes man, and he's going to just give you what you want, and you're going to have the show canceled, and the quality is going to fall down. Exactly what happened. I said, good luck to all of you.
Yeah. Because Script was telling us about the third film script that he has. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not the version I remember. And it sounded almost like it was a version they had rewritten to be cheap because it takes place in the real world. Was that something? Hey, Lorena, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
I love Lorena. Hey, I love it. Welcome. I was saying we need a beautiful woman on this. I was done with all this testosterone. Thank you.
Oh, sorry I couldn't get here earlier, so I'm glad you guys are still rolling. What are we talking about?
Well, we're just in the middle of super chats right now, but
okay.
We were talking about Tron.
We were talking about Tron, but the script that Script Doctor brought up to me felt like it was a script that was rewritten on the cheap. Like it took place in the real world and none of it was in the computer world. And it was like that to me. And I don't think that sounded anything like the version I remember hearing that the story was headed towards at all. So
I did hear about that version. I knew that version was being batted around when I was there. Like, we're going to do this thing where all the characters come out and go off. I don't know if that's the way you want to go with this, but then, they're like, see you later, sucker.
Yeah, well, because it sounded cheap to me. It's like, you don't have to do any special effects.
Indeed. So yeah, welcome, Lorena. It's great to have you. So to create some more balance. That's much needed with some balance to the force.
That's a disturbance in the force.
Here I am, me and my blonde hair.
So you did something to your hair there. Holy cow!
Love it.
Yeah, I'll try something a little different. See how I like it.
There you go.
Very nice. We were doing super chats, and we have one that came in just very recently, and I think it's an apt one, especially now when we have another YouTuber in Lorena Creole. Says, hey, Lorena Creole.
Hello.
And you are also a YouTuber, so everyone should check out her channel, which has some great content as well. So I'll be putting the link in the description of the video. But Willie Woodward, he said for $5, hey, Kamran, why does Hollywood hate YouTubers so much? Wouldn't they see it as a great way to get direct feedback for free?
I mean, it's people. The only people that hate YouTubers are the ones that feel that YouTubers are taking away their control of the narrative. So, those are people that already are not interested in fan feedback. They're interested in fan indoctrination. So everyone else, like Mr. Favreau, I'm sure he loves YouTubers. He's like, okay, now I know that, the audience ain't reacting to that. Let's move it in this direction, right? And you know, that's a smart business person, which is getting feedback, right? Whereas these people who are like, I'm not interested. You're here to take what I'm serving you, you stupid peon who is, you know, illiterate. I'm going to teach you what you need to know about life and ideology through my great thing. I don't want to hear your feedback. So they see you as a threat because you rile up the audience and take their power away from them.
Yeah, what I've been told from people on the inside as well, and obviously I'm not going to say any names, but yeah, we're seen as scum. We're seen as bottom feeders. We're seen as, oh, what did you do to earn your spot? Where all the people that we would consider access media don't understand why people gravitate towards us because
you're telling
exactly
you're feeling their hearts.
Yeah, we're not getting goodie bags and all that shit. Yeah, go ahead, Lorena.
Yeah, I was going to say also the thing is that we don't require a gatekeeper because, you know, we're out here and we're in this new media. We're not in the Hollywood machine where they control who talks to who can do work with who can let certain opinions out. You know, you're not dealing with PR firms who are allowed to say certain things. You're out here in new media. We're just like, I can just tell you exactly how it is. I'm not, you know, on your payroll. I don't have to go through your gatekeepers to get that opinion out there. And they don't like that because they cannot control that.
Yeah. And I think we've told it enough times and we're far enough away from it that you could probably tell the Jim Zub story, Andre, again.
Jim Zub, I don't know the story.
Who's that?
Jim Zub. He's a writer for Marvel's Conan the Barbarian, and like the comic book title. And about 1 year ago, we had an interview with him, and he's a really, really good guy, I have to say. Like, for instance, you know how you have many writers associated with Marvel that will disparage fans and overtly politicize things, and he's not one of them. Like, there you have good guys within Marvel, and he's one of them. Mm-hmm. And when the whole coup thing hit, he was one of the people that even told retailers, it's okay, you can return unsold copies of my books. So he's one of the good guys. Mm-hmm. And Midnight's Edge just so happens to be the foremost channel covering all things Conan on YouTube, because I'm a fan of Conan. So later we've had like the Fredrik Malmberg, who owns the entire Conan library and runs all the movies and everything, had him on and everything. But at the time, 1 year ago, when we wanted to do something with him, it had to be cleared because for us, we are like the toxic fandom menace kind of, and there was some pushback for that to happen. It didn't happen all on its own. In the end, of course, it was like they decided that, you know what, we're going to do this anyway. Which we're grateful for, and we hope to have him on later because he's a good guy and he's actually been doing really, really good writing Conan the Barbarian. It hasn't been getting enough press because, like, here in our service, like, we like to cover stuff like I Am Not Starfire and the Teen Titans and stuff, whereas the good stuff, like what he's been doing on Conan, kind of like doesn't get enough coverage. So yeah, we do get some pushback for people that we want to reach out to, and I know that you also have have a story with some Pixar people that we wanted to talk to. Tom.
Well, I was just going to say I did send you an interesting story about Conan last night, Andre. I didn't know if you saw that yet about.
Yeah,
Conan.
I know exactly what it is.
Okay.
I mean, this is like really nothing special. These are just. We'll do a separate video on those. Like,
I didn't know if that was
not a new title as per se. So that's like the Blaze translations of the French Conan editions from Glenat. So it's nothing but newsworthy per se.
But the Pixar story is pretty short. I guess I can make a short version. We did a Pixar video, and in the process of, we were working with somebody who knew somebody in at Pixar, and we were, getting info for the video and whatnot. And we did what we thought was a really fair job in the video. And I even went against some of my own better judgment in the video as far as how the Lassiter section was handled. And in the process of this, we're like, all right, well, the individual that we were working with thought they could maybe get us an interview with some people over at Pixar. But then after the fact, it got back to us that, no, we can't do that. You guys are a bunch of misogynists.
They said it that bluntly to you.
Excuse me?
Yep. No, and then after the fact, I'm like, you know what? I wish I'd have done the video I originally wanted to do, because I was going to call bullshit on the whole Me Too thing with Lassiter, because I saw it for what it really was. Some young up-and-comer who didn't like having to do the work, and when somebody who was a veteran told them how it should be done better, they cried Me Too. That's what it really was.
Regrettably,
for somebody, oh, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, from someone on the outside looking in who loves Pixar, that did not pass the smell test for me. I'm just like, there's something else going on there.
Well,
bringing up the stuff about last
personal revenge. All of this, it's all personal revenge. I'm sorry, I interrupted later on because I have a story to share about.
No, go right ahead. Because me on the outside looking in, it's just like, what do you mean? John Lasseter has done all this work for years. For me, John Lasseter is Pixar. So where the heck is all this stuff coming from all of a sudden? It just does not make sense to me at all. Of course, John Lasseter left. So now I guess they went to like Skydance animation, like over on Netflix. And there's like this exodus of, animator talent from Disney going over there because they're following Lasseter.
I don't know Mr. Lasseter. I've never worked at Pixar, but when this situation was happening, the general sort of, whispers amongst my colleagues was, yeah, man, he's been set up, right? I mean, they're like, because nobody, especially at that time, was like, you couldn't say a thing about Me Too. Everyone literally was whispers, like it was whispers at the water cooler. I was like, dude, he's being set up. And it's like, and so that's how scared everyone was at the time. It's now faded away because, now it's like, whatever, it achieved its objective and now nobody cares about sexual harassment. I mean, the real sexual harassment has always happened. It's happened back since the silent movies. There was, back in the 1920s, one of the first silent film stars actually sued someone for sexual harassment. This is an old thing, right? She had the guts to do that in the 20s, right? And so this is the people that have been doing this have been protected and will always be protected. And then whenever someone needs to use this for political purpose, it comes out. I will share with you something. I was working on a show that never got on the air because of this stuff. I was working with Oliver Stone on a show for Showtime Networks. And I'd worked with them on Sleeper Cell. This was going to be a very exciting show. Oliver was developing a show set in Guantanamo Bay, sort of looking at the trials. It was a drama fictionalizing one of the trials of these insurgents held at Guantanamo Bay, right? And it was a really complex show. And, Stone has his perspectives. And so we had written the season. And even though I'd never met him, one of the people that was on the masthead as an EP of the show was Harvey Weinstein, okay? Because Oliver had brought Weinstein, and Weinstein to Showtime, and together that was the powerhouse that sold the show, right? And then suddenly all the stuff that happened with Weinstein came out literally as we, in that fall while we were writing. And when that came out, I called, an assistant who was working the show that night when the stuff started breaking. I said, you better start sending your resume out because we're all done. And I was right. We're done because we were then, oh, you were a Harvey Weinstein show. You're done. We're never going to put this on the air. Now, Mr. Weinstein has been known in the 20 years that I worked in Hollywood. He was known for all of his stuff. I knew about it back in 2001, and the entire system, it was the big joke of the system. Everyone played along with it. And without revealing names, there are famous actors and actresses that served as pimps and madams for him. Right. And they were sending him girls. Right. It was all like a fun game. Give Harvey a girl, you get what you need. Right. And they all played along with it. Very famous people who are now very outspoken on Me Too were actually pimping people or madaming people to him. And I knew all this. And when it happened, when this started going down, because we were associated with Weinstein, I called a friend who works at Weinstein. And I was like, what's happening? What's happening right now? Because I was like, why is this suddenly coming out? Well, we've all known what this guy is for 20 years. And she said, what she said to me, this is what she conveyed. She said, oh, this is a internal thing at Weinstein that got out of control. Basically, he and his brother Bob were fighting for control of the company. And so Bob, according to her, I don't know that this is true, but she said Bob, or faction supporting Bob, leaked out some stuff in the hopes of trying to embarrass Harvey in order to get a better deal in the situation. It just happened to hit at the exact moment the Me Too stuff was starting. So it was lightning. So suddenly this thing exploded. And not only did Harvey get, became the focus of Me Too, suddenly the Weinstein Company itself collapsed, which wasn't the agenda. The agenda was to try to push him out, or it was a political play. And suddenly all of them lost their jobs, and the people behind it were like, the company essentially ceased to exist. And I watched that happening real time. It was a revenge play, a political play that was then utilized by people for ideological purposes. And suddenly everyone's like, how do we get out of this situation without all of the secrets coming out? These are the conversations. Like, how do we make sure XYZ actress's name doesn't come up, that she's been in girls for 20 years? How do we make sure that doesn't get out? So the whole thing was a political play that exploded. And now, and I said this at the time, I said, I think it was 2016. I said, 2016 will be the year of Me Too. 2017 will be the year of the Me Too backlash. And 2018 will be business back to usual, where we're back at the casting couch.
I can tell you the exact moment when Me Too was over.
Tell me.
The exact moment. The exact moment was when the person that right now is sitting in the Oval Office, when the stories became about him, then all
I agree. I didn't want to say that out loud, but that is exactly my mind. And I was like,
up until that point, it was guilt upon accusation. But from that moment on, proof was required. And you even had some of the female leaders that had been there at the front demanding that no, guilty upon accusation, especially in the case of SCOTUS person whom we do not like, then absolutely no proof was required. But now when it's someone that we are trying to that we are standing behind, now proof is required.
Yeah, and that was
the end.
Yeah, and now we're back to normal. Like I said, this is going to be a crass joke, but it's a joke about this industry's evil, which is that the casting couch is back. And it never went away, but it's back now. The problem is because of everything that happened last year, now it's basically OnlyFans, because all the casting is done online. You're actually never in a room with an actor, right? So everyone's like, all right, do it. Take off your clothes online. I mean, that's how ridiculous this town is, right? It's basically become, all right, baby, you want the role? Strip on camera.
Well, that's the other thing.
This idiotic industry
that I think is stupid is like, yeah, okay, you can call this out, and it's like you said, Cameron, it's always been a part of the industry. And the reason is because there's women who are willing to let it happen. And I'm not trying to victim blame here, but like you said, there's always going to be another woman who's willing to do what you're not. Like, that's what I'm getting at. I'm not trying to victim blame at all, but what I'm saying is, like, yeah, there's always going to be that person who's going to be willing to do the thing you're not and get the thing you want instead. And I'm not trying to encourage anybody to do that thing.
You don't have to encourage them. That's
the thing. It's just, because of that, that's how you're never going to be able to get rid of it. Yeah.
That's exactly how it is out there, because for the short stint that I did live in Los Angeles, in the belly of the beast, in that area, like North Hollywood, Sherman Oaks, whatever, and had friends of mine who were in the industry, the stories that they would tell me were crazy. About the quote unquote casting couch. But yeah, it's like one girl, she's just like, I didn't want to do X, Y, and Z. I wound up not even getting the role. I wound up not getting it just for that. I'm much better. I'm much more talented, but I wasn't willing to do that. But that's the thing. You've got a bunch of people there in Hollywood. They are more about making a name for themselves and more about being a star, that they're willing to do anything.
Exactly.
On that note, we just have a very topical super chat from Gabriel Quiroga, who says for $10, thank you so much. What's up, Emmy? And good to see you again, Kamran. Mr. Pasha, can you still get by in this industry with hard work and integrity, or do you need to get down and kiss some serious butt? Or head on over to OnlyFans, I guess.
Nobody wants to see me
feel so dirty on OnlyFans.
Well, look, the reality is you can survive in this industry. The more vocal you are early in the journey, the more enemies you make early on when you don't have your track record. So anyone who's interested in the industry, I always tell young people I'm mentoring, keep your mouth shut. and just survive for a while, and then eventually you'll be in a position to do what you want. But even then, you got to be careful. Like even like Gina Carano doesn't come out and support a political candidate, right? But even that's enough to still rile people up. And so, you know, I'm outspoken now, and I've said it's because I've been through 20 years of this. I've already been through a period where I went through a multi-year period where I couldn't get work because even though I was keeping my mouth shut about politics and religion, I've been identified as somebody people didn't want to work with because of my religion, not even my politics. It just, you know, I talked about after Obama was elected, I was no longer useful. During the Bush era, I was a little bit of the Muslim poster boy. I mean, the New York Times, LA Times did huge pieces on me as being this up-and-coming Muslim writer at a time fighting the war on terror through TV, right? And then the moment Obama was elected, they said, we don't need this clown anymore, right? Because we don't give a crap about his religion. Now we don't have to associate with it. And I was out, and I spent years pulling myself back. And whatever I have now is purely through taking it with the force of my will, because I have all these adversaries, not for anything that I did. It's just because I was labeled as the Muslim troublemaker in town, right? And so now I'm like, all right, I'll speak out, because what difference does it make? I already have this army of people that won't hire me, and I have these people that will. So it doesn't matter.
You had nothing left to lose, yeah.
They put me there.
Exactly.
Yeah. On that note, I have another question, but first we're gonna again something topical. JLo Flicks says, "So great to see Kamran again, and as a compliment, is it just me or does Kamran resemble a grown-up golden child? Love you all. Have a great." Which
is weird because the golden child was played by a little, I believe, a Cantonese girl, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, yeah, okay.
I'll take it. I'll take the compliment. I'm not seeing it, but I'll go with it. I think it's a well compliment. Okay.
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon. Yeah.
But then also, as to the question, or rather the request, actually, because you mentioned that. Again, I do not want to get political here, so I have to be really, really careful with how to word this. So everyone in the comment, you will have to understand, we cannot be too direct here because we will be struck down. But trying to dance things around a little bit, you mentioned that when the quote-unquote good side was in power, there wasn't that much demand for you. But when the quote-unquote bad side was in power, then your services were needed to make a statement.
And when the now returned to power, right after the good side had 8 years, literally my phone was ringing off the hook. I mean, when Mr. Bad Guy had been elected, I went into the office on a show I was working on. People were crying with tears, red face, crying the next morning, right? And I went into my office, and I sort of listened to all of them, and I went in my office, closed the door, and I said, okay, my career's coming back, right? And that tape started ringing off the hook. All these old dead projects were coming back. Oh, we need you to write the because he's doing this Muslim ban or whatever. We need you to write the show. I was like, all right, I'll take it. I'll ride this wave. Apparently, it was only a 4-year wave. We'll see. But I wrote it as long as I could.
You know what, Cameron? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andre.
Yeah, sorry. I was just about to say that because you've heard this before, but I think that more people should hear it now. When, or at least certainly for some time now, it has looked as though the good guys would get back in power. Why don't you repeat the story that you first relayed on toxic femininity as pertains to Wonder Woman 1984?
Now, which story was?
No, that would be about some of the symbolism. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lorena, because I think
that is something that is very under-communicated. Which I think that needs more attention.
Yeah, so I was a big fan of the first movie, and I defended it. A lot of people in my Muslim community didn't like the Gal Gadot, who had been an Israeli IDF soldier, had been featured, and I thought that was unfair because I thought she did a wonderful job in that movie. And I even spoke on the BBC in defense of her, right? And I got a lot of attack from my own community. Oh, whatever, you're sellout. I said, okay, whatever. I'm being honest. I always present honest views. Then I was so excited for the second movie, and I saw it. I saw it in a drive-in LA, and I was stunned by how bad it was, just objectively as a film and as a screenwriter. But then there was this moment, and I've talked to my friend Abu Nas, who's big in the fandom menace, who's a fellow Muslim, and he and I don't always agree on politics, but we agreed on this. We watching this, and there's that fight. We watched the entire movie. Suddenly had all these these comically portrayed Arab Muslim villains, a bunch of Egyptian dudes. There was an Afghan guy praying, asking a wish for a nuclear bomb. It was all that crap that we thought was already done. But there was beyond the negative, the suddenly aggressively negative portrayal of Muslims in that movie. There was a specific moment that I said, okay, this is a message. And that's when I tuned out. I was like, okay, I know what this is. If you all remember in Wonder Woman 1984, there's a fight sequence in Egypt, right? Where Diana is fighting a bunch of these, these mind controlled, but still villainous Arab guys, right? And then Steve Trevor's trying to help her. So he jumps into one of the trucks that's trying to run down Diana and basically throws out the villain and, takes control of the truck and tries to help her. That's a good action sequence in a pretty bad movie, but it's there. And then there's this moment in there which every Muslim I know saw. Abu Nas saw it. I saw it. We all were shocked. He jumps in, he throws out the bad guy, knocks some of the broken window pane out of that, and then there is hanging from the mirror, the mirror, there's hanging this amulet, like people hang crosses or stars of David or whatever, like a prayer amulet. It's a prayer amulet. It's an Islamic prayer amulet with the name Allah, God, on it. And Steve just grabs it for no reason and contemptuously throws it out the window. So I was like, okay, that's a very specific action that was choreographed in this fight. And that's a choice. All of this movie is a bad choice. And these villains are a bad choice. But that moment was choreographed. And, some production designer chose that and put that there. And then Patty Jenkins had this guy take it and throw it aside contemptuously. And people then say, you're being oversensitive, Muslim identity politics. Anybody knows me, that's not what I'm about. But people said that to me. And I said, well, think about it. If you had a character jump into a car and grab the cross, that's a choice.
Exactly. Because I know Cameron, I had said, that was a very deliberate action. I didn't know what he was grabbing, but it's obvious he wanted to get it out of the way and done with. Yeah. But I didn't know that's what that symbolism was. And I thought in my mind, I said, what if that was a cross and someone did that, the same thing? And that's the analogy that you made. So, that was deliberate and frankly, really shocking to hear that they did that.
And, look, I defended Patty Jenkins in the first movie. I now realize that I think I may have misjudged her, about who she is, because the first movie actually had a very positive Muslim character. Saeed Tagmawi, an actor I've worked with, was a Moroccan actor, was one of her sidekicks. And he was a really good character. He's the one that challenged her with all the languages and whatever. He was a good character. So I was like, hey, look. And he talked about how much racism he experienced in France. So I was like, hey, look, this is a very sympathetic movie. This is not and so this I used in my BBC interview, saying Muslims who are thinking that this movie is there's an agenda because Israeli woman IDF is the lead. Look at this. Look at how well they did it. And then I see this movie. I'm like, yeah, I think that was the screenwriters in the first movie. I think Patty Jenkins really does have this attitude. And, and because she fired the screenwriters. This is all her. This is her. And these were her choices. And maybe she took a lot of offense personally that so many Arabs and Muslims, in my opinion, unfairly attacked the first movie for that. And she decided to make that her screw you. But I'm like, hey, man, that's a big market out there. What are you doing? Like my friend who, even if they grumbled about Gal Gadot, loved the movie. And now when people heard about this, they stopped tuning in. They're like, well, I'm not going to watch this. That's a market. Why are you offending this market? There was no reason for this. And unless you were getting back to what you're saying, Andre, unless you were overconfident that the good guys are going to be back in play. And so you can go back to the kind of storytelling that's from your heart, which is, I hate these people. Their religion is crap. It's anti-feminist, it's anti-LGBT, whatever you think it is, right? And I don't like their views on Israel. And finally, I have to can stop pretending that they're my ally. And I can go back to the storytelling I want to do, which is what happened during 8 years of Mr. Good Guy, and what happened immediately when they thought they had this thing locked up. And so, I said this months ago, and I said this probably on Lorena's channel. I said this, that if Mr. Good Guy wins this election, right, my career is going to go through the same nonsense I went through before. And here we are.
Yeah. It's like,
so that was a story there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go.
That's the town. That's the town.
Yeah, that's them breaks. So yeah, we have a few more super chats, and I won't be able to bring these on screen because they're older, so you'll just have to listen real carefully. But we'll get through them, and there's some good questions in here. Tiberius Monk said, Tron Legacy still has one of the best soundtracks of all time.
Yes.
Alone with the Midnighters, Tom and Andre. This was before you came on, Lorena, but I'm sure he'd be very happy to see you.
Well, it's funny that they brought that up because I said last night that's half the reason I think this Tron 3 is happening, because Daft Punk's production company is one of the companies behind it. And I'm willing to bet that was one of their biggest selling albums of all time. That's why.
Oh, yeah. I told people, I said, I didn't really care for the Tron Legacy movie, but that Daft Punk soundtrack was gold.
Well, Rob just called it a 2-hour-long Daft Punk video. So
that music is part of the reason why that movie is one of the best experiences I ever had in a cinema. Because, to me, when that happened, the Oslo cinema and Disney were actually in conflict. So not a single cinema in Oslo, which is the capital of Norway, for those that do not know, and the city where I reside, wouldn't show it on cinemas. So I had to leave Oslo. So me and a few friends, we bought tickets to in Sandvika, which is outside of Oslo, and we drove for 45 minutes to get there. It's the only time in my life actually I had to
drive 45 minutes to go to the theater anyway.
Well, actually, that's not fully. I've traveled further to see a movie before, but anyway, that was the first time in Norway I had to travel to see a movie, and it's a smaller screen than what we would have in Oslo. But still, it was such an amazing experience seeing that movie with that soundtrack in Dolby Atmos. It was mind blowing.
Was it 3D?
Of course, it was 3D.
I was gonna say that's one of those ones when people bring up 3D, it's that one did it right.
It did. It did.
It did indeed. It was fantastic. It was like the Wizard of Oz 3D version.
Wow.
Which I have that on Blu-ray, by the way. But anyway, no.
Anyway, yeah. Moving on from there. Eric O'Sullivan says for $10, thank you so much, keeping our lights on. I love hearing Andre say Gina Carano's name. At this point, I could listen to Andre read the phone book. Hey, anyone know the old Stephen Martin reads the phone book comedy bit? It's on YouTube. Thanks, guys. I'll have to check that out. And Lord Trinan says, there's an easy way to tell who at Lucasfilm has TDS. Gather them in a room, say T's name, and see who starts twitching/foaming at the mouth.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. I will say this, and not to get political. I will say this: the last few days, I've been doing your standard industry calls for work or whatever, and everyone has to go through the ritual of "I'm so glad tea is gone." And it's a ritual. You got a ritual prayer mantra. You got to start. So I'm like, okay, here we go. Phone conversation, or I'm like, as a Zoom is going on, because here we go, and they say it, and then they're all sort of like, then there's just silence. I'm like, oh, cool. because now there's nothing to talk about, right?
What do we do now?
Because they don't care about the new guy. They never cared about this guy. Now there's no, what do we do? And there's just this sort of silence afterwards. Like, okay, we're not going to do our ritual tea hating at the beginning because there's nothing more to talk about.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see when reality sets in. Yeah.
Again, I don't want to get political, but I am getting political. I say that because it's linked to what we're talking about, Wonder Woman 1984. I had said to my fellow Muslims, you're supporting Mr. Good Guy there, right? You know what he's going to do? The moment he's going to get elected, they're going to start bombing the Middle East again, right? And literally within 24 hours, suddenly Iraq bombs are going off in Iraq magically, and suddenly we're already having convoys going to Syria, back to Iraq. Within 24 hours. I said, yeah, they didn't even wait. They were waiting for this. Like, all right, let's do it. Within 5 hours, it's like, oh, terrorists.
They didn't want to wait till the rest of the month to get through it. Like they were trying to. No, but anyway, I don't even want to get into this crap.
Yeah, because it's linked to the.
Oh no, yeah.
What happened, Patty Jenkins? They're all like, all right, let's get back to these villains. And that's the whole system.
Yeah, and now they can go back to the villains after no new wars have been started for I believe it might have been 4 years. But anyway, we're not going to get into that at all.
The last thing I'll say about this political thing, and it's kind of in the middle anyway, so I think it's all right. I think you kind of brought this up a little earlier before the show, Cameron, and what goes along with this is I wouldn't care so much if they really were getting behind a certain candidate for a good reason. But let's be real. The only reason they really, really got behind a certain candidate is A, they knew that's where the bailout money was going to come from, and B, because they hated the other guy so bad. That's really all it was.
I haven't seen that much Hollywood. Yeah.
That's why I said that first.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that much Hollywood haterade since another bad guy was in office, but now he's a good guy. He's a good guy now. But when he was a bad guy back then, Hollywood was freaking insufferable. My goodness gracious. But they were actually creative because they had a villain. But now he's not the villain anymore.
That's why on Hollywood, we're going to blow out of steam here because now they don't even. What's the organizing factor? What's going to keep the Lucasfilm, the flying monkeys going? Is Gina Carano going to be the new villain for the next 4 years? I mean, what do they got? And unfortunately, it's going to be people that look like me because it's already started. I mean, it's already. Oh
my goodness.
Well, if it can be any kind of consolation, I did read an article. I believe it was in either Variety or the Hollywood Reporter with someone that says that no, Hollywood now is when we really need to start ramping up the anti-T content like ever before, so that we can really shame more than half the nation, as well as prevent someone like T to ever rise again.
Someone worse than T will rise because of that. Someone, and T will be like, this little pussycat, this guy that sort of just made some grumbly comments and packed up and just left. You're gonna have a dude who says, this Constitution don't work no more. That dude is coming. That dude is coming.
Have you seen the OBT memes? Strike me down, and I'll become more powerful than you could ever imagine.
Makes sense.
To take this conversation a little bit back towards other things, like
we have to before we're struck down.
No. The good point is, I think Cameron. Cameron. Like I say, at least you can rest assured that it's a good thing that the Russians are very white, because I think in the next 4 years at least, a lot of the bad guys are going to be very white and Russian.
Muslim alliance. I mean, that's what it is in Syria, right? So that's what it is. So that's going to be the best.
But you already had like the very, very good woman, the one who should have been in charge the last 4 years, with the other really, really good woman who is still there, like together saying that we really need to look into those pesky Russians for everything that they have done. My God. You remember when the Russian bots were the ones behind the attacks on the last Jedi?
It is what it is. Let's
get back on the train. Back on track. Okay. Back on track. Jesse Miller at the Crow's Nest says, Andre, please say, oh, I'm afraid of this. Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho. Okay. I'm worried about what that sound bite is going to be used for.
No.
I think you might want to edit that one out. I don't know, man. I don't know about that.
He just wanted you to do the Hans Gruber thing. That's all.
Oh, is that Hans Gruber? Oh, I didn't even recognize it. Yeah. Okay, now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
He read the note from his dead dude that the Bruce Willis took out, and he had a little Christmas note on it. Now I got a machine gun.
What is it you said?
That was such a great movie. That script.
I honestly don't even remember that line, so I got all the delivery wrong.
That's
that was classic. Yeah.
I have 2 scripts in my desk drawer that I keep as examples of superb screenwriting. One is Pirates of the Caribbean, the first movie, and the second is Die Hard. I have both those scripts in my desk to look at for inspiration.
Of all the terrorists I gotta kill the one that's got feet smaller than my sister's.
You know what? If you love Die Hard, you have to watch the parody that the Cleveland show did of Die Hard.
Wow, okay.
It is freaking hilarious. You can tell whoever wrote it, they love Die Hard the movie. They just, instead of, John, it was Cleveland instead. And it was hilarious. It was hilarious. It was great.
Oh yeah, and Jesse Miller also says, "See, that's what super chats are for." Yeah, exactly. I just have to make sure to be up on my Die Hard.
You're pretty close. Now I have a machine gun. Ho,
okay.
Ho, Ho.
Okay, I'll do it one more time. Yeah.
Good job, man.
Yeah. Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
He's
How's
pissed.
that?
Our great actor who made that language.
Yeah, I'm a terrible actor, and I can only do one accent, and that's the one I'm stuck with. So.
See, you're the only person who I know who actually remotely speaks German who hasn't said that the one thing that's wrong with that movie is the scene where he's speaking the German part before he goes, shoot the glass. He's actually saying it wrong. He's saying it in like the English pentameter instead of saying it in the German, like however you, the yeah, he's saying it wrong, I guess.
That's what we call
is wrong.
That's what we in writers' rooms we sit around and we're trying to figure out stuff, and then there's always someone who goes, well, what if somebody notices that little thing, and then we go, that's just that one asshole. So you're that one asshole who noticed.
I'm not even the one who does that. Everybody points it out to me.
One asshole comment.
Every time I bring it up, somebody points it out to me who actually, and I used to speak German. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, one asshole, man. You're an archetype in writers' rooms. Yeah, don't worry about that. It's just going to be one asshole, right?
Yeah, it's just going to be Tom.
Yeah, there's one asshole's going to notice it. Don't worry about it.
It's funny though, because I had like that every single time someone in Hollywood tries to speak, or in like Hollywood movies tries to speak Norwegian, or in TV series or something. It's hilarious every single time. Yeah. But anyway, moving on from sound bites and me not knowing my Die Hard. Eric O'Sullivan says for $10 keeping our lights on, so thanks for that. Kamran, between Carrie, Doomcock, and now, I'm in love. You have great takes, and I value your input. I've wanted an Arabic tattoo, Hark al-Ada, a Dune reference celebrating 15 years no cigarettes. What do you think?
Well, congratulations, 15 years, no cigarettes, right? That's wonderful. I'm glad you're taking care of your health. Do whatever feels good to you. As a traditional Muslim, we don't tattoos are seen as altering your body. And so traditional religious Muslims don't do tattoos. Nowadays, sort of the more cool hip Muslims got lots of tattoos, right? And Arabic tattoos are very popular. Do what's good for you. I don't do tattoos, but if it's what you need, do it, man.
Try it out in henna. I do believe Muslims are quite fond of that.
Oh, we love henna. You can wash it off too. That's great.
Yeah. And Roof Korean is bound for the something that I cannot see here on my screens. But anyway, Roof Korean, who is an awesome name, says, does KK still have Spielberg's support? Wasn't there a story or rumor about Steven losing confidence in KK and it affected his involvement in Indy 5? Yes, this came from WDW Pro over at Pirates and Princesses, which is the blog associated with the YouTube channel Clownfish TV. We actually covered that in our last video where we referenced WDW Pro's reporting. But we don't know if it's true. We only referenced him. Kamran, Steven Spielberg dropped out of Indiana Jones 5. Was that because of some kind of schism between him or Kathleen Kennedy, or was there something else behind that?
I mean, it could be. I think, Mr. Spielberg is very sensitive to where the audience is, at least in that sense. But also, if you notice, that's been sort of his shtick for about 20 years now, starting stuff, not finishing it, right? In this, God bless him. He's still one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, but a little bit, the mojo is a little different nowadays, right? He just starts stuff and then loses interest in it and drops off. I mean, it's not that incredible impetus of his early energy that he had with Jaws and Raiders and everything else. It feels like after he did sort of Munich was, I think, his last movie that his passion was in. And then after that, it was just sort of like, yeah, well, I'll do stuff. So I think a lot of it may simply be where his heart is right now.
I don't think Cameron's wrong. I mean, I think it should be fair to point out, and again, I don't know anything. I'm just going off of what I know about the situation. Spielberg kind of felt like he was done with Indy after Last Crusade. Like he really did the Crystal Skull for George. He has said that on multiple occasions. And it was either he just didn't have it in him anymore, like Cameron said. It could have been a dispute between him and Kathy. It could have been, because here's the thing. I think they're going to kill him. And I honestly think that Spielberg took one look at that and said, you cannot kill James Bond.
Yeah.
Because that's what that character is to him. That's his James Bond. And that's why he did
Yeah.
And he's
he
like,
better stay away from the next James Bond movie then.
well, I don't think Bond is going to die in that, but he's basically.
I think the final version, I think the original version probably was woke. And I always said that woke James Bond would be the end of wokeness.
That's
and
still,
James
that's
Bond
still in there.
pulled it back. I think they've reshot a lot of it officially because of this, health issue. But I think it's because the test audience said, well, "What is this? We don't want to see Bond as a cuck. We don't want to see him as this weak guy."
No, that from somebody, we actually recorded that, by the way. But, yeah.
I mean, you go back and watch Sean Connery's original stuff. I mean, everyone loves him being the asshole alpha male, right? And
yes.
They love it.
Absolutely. I grew up watching the Bond movies, not too many because my parents wouldn't let me, but the ones that I did see, the ones that edited ones, I was like, he was awesome. Bond is supposed to be just a grade A jackass. That's what we expect him to be, and to like soy him down. No, I'm not interested. I don't want to see that.
And the thing is, the books are great. If people haven't read the original, books are incredible, right? They hold up after all these decades. The original Bond books by Ian Fleming. It's very clear this guy in the books is a really damaged guy. I mean, it's very clear. Fleming portrays him in the books as is essentially emotionally and psychologically damaged, incapable of having relations with women properly, and he keeps having his heart broken because of his own damage. This is who the guy is supposed to be. They've actually softened that in the movies, because the original book, he's a ruthless killer who cannot function properly with women. And his misogyny comes out of a little bit of self-hatred. It's very clear in the books. You take that away, you take away who he is.
And also, very topical, Bogue says The Rock, this would be the Michael Bay movie, is the canon ending to Connery Bond. I subscribe to this.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a common.
I like that movie.
Rob and I are not a fan of fan theories or fan, these kind of things like, so-and-so in this movie is actually this person, blah, 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 blah. This is one that we do kind of get behind, I think. This, and speaking of Die Hard, the other one is Reginald Vell Johnson's character. We swear up and down the story he's telling about the kid he shoots, that's Urkel. And he had to change his name and move.
Oh, that's a great one right there.
They're still working for the youngest daughter. They don't know where the fuck she at.
Can I make a comment about Urkel? I actually
go for it.
Reference to Urkel when I was, I was talking to a producer.
I'm sorry, Rob. I did not know. You did not.
So I was talking about it to a fellow producer on a TV show, and this made him uncomfortable because he was one of these sort of white woke guys who was talking a lot about, we got systemic racism and blah, 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 blah. And I said, systemic racism? You want to talk systemic racism? Look at our industry, I said to him. I said, look around us. They will never hire a confident, aggressive black man. Every black man we've been working with is a nerdy, geeky guy that white men in the room dominate. And
feminized and non-threatening.
Exactly. And I've interviewed, like we had people come in, it's like, this guy's charming, aggressive, confident. He's a leader. We need him in the room. Nah, we're going to get this Urkel. And I said it, and the guy got so offended because it's true, because he didn't want, and my thing is, they think they're hiring an Urkel when they hire me, little Pakistani brown guy. And then I end up becoming the loudmouth in the room that says, no, that doesn't work. No, we got to do it this way. And they want me back in that box. That's why I use that reference, because we were having this sort of intense moment. I was like, I'm not going to play this Urkel thing. You guys thought you got an Urkel. You didn't get that. You got somebody who knows what he's doing. And let's just say I didn't work out much longer on that show.
Yeah. Again, that's why I always want to point out that you're an MBA. You have experience from practicing law. You are far more skilled. You are far more skilled than any of the people that are supposed to basically run the writer's room. You have 10 times their skill in any field that can be mentioned, and that obviously is threatening to them.
It is, because again, the image was, I'm brought in, it's especially when I was necessary for PR purposes. We got the Muslim guy to fight the big bad, right? And the goal was to get this guy, have him in for FaceTime, shut up and do the work and sit in the corner, right? And I would very quickly start asserting myself because that's who I am. And very quickly early in my career, I said, oh, okay, maybe you should just keep your mouth shut if you want to keep the job, because they don't care that you understand this better than them. In fact, it offends them. That's not the role you're supposed to play. You're the wallflower there for the PR purposes, right? For the identity politics. And when they realize that you have multiple degrees, and have worked professionally on Wall Street and stuff like that, and can apply that knowledge into running a show, that's incredibly threatening for people who basically, they just got in the industry when they're 21, they had the right contacts, they rose up quickly, and they got no life experience, and they just have a woke bubble, right? And then you shatter every stereotype they have of the minority who's inferior to them, and it becomes a real problem.
Yeah, because it's that tokenism that they like to have. They don't want someone who has the merit and the talent to do the job that just so happens to be wrapped in a different color skin. Right. They want someone who's inferior that they can use as a token, so that that's their shield. Like, you can't say that we're not racist. You can't say that we're not for diversity. But they'll do that instead, and it's insulting.
Yeah, they'll say that we are against those things.
Yeah, which is not even the case. Yeah, it's like
exactly.
If that was the case, then why was Eddie Murphy my favorite actor growing up? Why do I enjoy like Alien and Terminator and all these other things with strong female characters? And
they say that to get you to shut up and not push against that. Because here's the other trick. Even if you're a minority and you push against that same crap, you're self-hating now. Really convenient.
Yeah, or look at Gina Carano, because there you have like the same.
Yeah, to bring it
there you have a genuine strong female.
Champion.
Yeah,
she could break the neck of anyone talking smack to her if she was that person.
And we have a white nipple.
I'm a disembodied floating boob. Great. Thanks a lot.
I don't think we've met before, Mr. Reverend Harry Krishna. So pleasure to connect with you.
It's Rob.
It's just me. It's one of my alter egos.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Yeah. That bootleg George Takei. This is another one. His Holiness Pope Bob. So don't make me pull out Pope Bob Iger. You mentioned his name. What?
Please don't.
Someone said James Bond 3 times and I magically appeared.
Yeah, well, I brought you in because jumping off of that, I know people wanted us to mention, I've had a few messages about this, so we'll probably try to get into it if we have time here, a little bit about the delays and stuff, but let's get caught up on the super chats first.
Yeah, because I got to ask something by Cameron about that, and we'll get to that. Let's super chats. Maybe I can fix my avatar. So
Stephanie Yanisek's Smuggler's Cantina says Kennedy learned nothing from Milius, Spielberg, and Eastwood. I agree with I disagree with that. I bet that she learned what each of their coffee preferences was.
Ouch. Well, here's the thing that just goes to show, like we keep saying, like it's the people she works with. She never works with anybody where she actually has to do anything.
Correct.
Like I've pointed out a million times, she can call up New York City to the mayor's office and say, hey, this is Kathleen Kennedy. She didn't even have to say I'm Steven Spielberg's producer because everybody knows that already. Can we get the Brooklyn Bridge shut down for a few hours? And they're like, oh, absolutely, Miss Kennedy. But now if Kevin Smith's producer calls and says, hey, I'm Kevin Smith's producer. I need hello.
Hey, buddy, call here again. I'm calling the cops. Okay.
Exactly. But anyway, we do have to actually say goodbye to Lorena. She has some work to do.
Oh, okay, Lorena. Well,
I do.
Bring me back on your channel, Lorena. I always enjoy our chats.
Oh, awesome. I'll have Fat Steven tag with you and get you on. Definitely. We miss you, dude. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm glad I could drop in to hang out with you guys and you guys in the chat and all that. So it's
always a pleasure to get to have you.
Yeah.
Have you with us talking, yes.
See, the secret here is Lorena and I are like Afi and Sika, the wild Samoans. She taps out and I tap in. So
no, she doesn't like you.
You have more testosterone now.
I tried, Cameron. I really, truly did.
They did, but I switched around a couple of things so I could drop it. And
she actually made the effort. So there you go.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
All right. Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Day, Lorena.
It's a sausage party now, great. Yeah.
With that, let's get into some more super chat. Ironically, Mr. Tickletrunk, he said, and more Lorena. I probably should have brought that up like 30 seconds ago.
I think she saw it earlier,
yeah. And Andres Fernandez says, hey guys, why some great movies, really good, like Dune, Tron, or Blade Runner were not the box office success. Not the first and not the sequels. Is there a curse in these movies?
Well, first of all, you called Dune a great movie. Okay, so that's where we got to start.
Down, Rob.
Yeah,
Kamran, your thoughts. Are some movies cursed? I'll have my say on that afterwards. But your thoughts as someone in the industry.
Some movies are destined to be cult classics that resurrect, right? And that's what they are. And so I would agree that the original Dune, I watched it, I was like, okay, this don't really work, right? And so the later sci-fi miniseries I thought worked very well, right? But God bless him for trying something. Although I understand that Frank Herbert loved the original Dune movie, he felt it was close to the spirit of what he wrote. So who knows? But there are some movies that are just literally ahead of their time, like Blade Runner, literally ahead of their time, right? And so it takes a while for them to get into the audience mindset. But the very fact that we're still talking about, the very fact that 40 years later, Blade Runner has a sequel, and that person who made that sequel has become a very successful Hollywood director, is now making Dune, right? It just speaks to the fact that these things enter into culture with time. You know, the amazing thing is, It's a Wonderful Life did not succeed in the theaters when it came out. And now, I mean, it's such a huge part of Christmas culture. You see it every year, right? But it was in some ways ahead of its time in talking about some of the social issues that it talks about there. And the audience picked up with it with time. And I think that's what happens with a lot of the best movies, is that they seep into our archetypal culture and they influence us over generations.
Yeah. And what I would add to that is that no movie is cursed. The only thing that it's cursed with is either a producer that either allocates such a high budget that it can never ever make it back, as was the case with Blade Runner 2049, or it's cursed with a marketing department that doesn't know how to sell the movie, as was the case with Dredd, although that wasn't expensive, or it's cursed with another producer that chops down the running time for some bullcrap reasons, which was the case with David Lynch's Dune. And those are the only curses that there are. No property is inherently cursed. That's superstition, and in my view, something that stupid Hollywood people say to excuse themselves of their own completely avoidable failures. Wasn't me. Property was cursed. No, it was you.
Well, the only movie that is cursed is The Last Jedi, and it really is a curse on that movie. I mean,
it's not
again,
cursed.
That's also something inflicted by its creators.
It's not cursed. It's a blight. There's a difference.
Well, Ironcaster asked about the Poltergeist curse. Well, you never know about that one, but
Cameron, I don't know if you're a sports fan. They always talk about the curse of the Bambino in Boston as to why the Red Sox never won a World Series. I'm like, no, it wasn't the curse of the Bambino. It was the curse of bad management. Okay, Boston is a big market. Is a big market. They should be spending money, and every year they would spend a pittance. I'm like, oh, geez, I don't know why we're not winning. I'm like, yeah, because you're spending like you don't have money to spend. You have to go out and make the investment. So you have to get all the right players. Well, that's pretty much. I think the same applies to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a big fan of horror movies. There's a huge market of small horror movies that are direct to video or just play for a couple of days in the theater. And there's entire magazines dedicated to them, right? I mean, and those movies, we could argue about their quality, but there's a market for them, and they know how to get to that market. And so those movies keep being made because they're successful.
Yeah. You know, talk about horror movies. People always talk about superhero. Well, there's too many superhero movies released every year. There's at the most 5 superhero movies released every year, Tom?
If you're talking big studios, maybe. And this year we didn't have that many at all, really.
And I looked at it. There's over 100 horror movies released every year.
Oh, yeah, because horror
globally. Huge. Oh, yeah, it's huge. I'm like, nobody ever talks about horror movie fatigue.
But never really happened.
No, people say that. People do say that in the industry. Whenever I write a horror movie, whenever I write in the horror movie, my agents or people will be like, "Man, I know there's too many horror movies." I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's never too many horror movies. What are you talking about?"
No,
it's just the movies we get from Marvel and from Warner Brothers and whatever. They just outgross everything in their path, like Call of Duty in the video game industry.
They get the marketing. That's also what people want to see. They get all the marketing, they get all the attention, and everything else kind of gets drowned out unless you're looking for it. And so people are left with this stupid impression that every single movie is a superhero movie or a remake. No, they're just the ones that get attention. If you want more diversity, go support it.
There's also expectations attached to it. Like the thing is, Rob, like the horror fans, like, I hate to say it, but for the most part, a lot of them are easy to please. I'm not one of the easier pleased horror fans, but I know a lot of horror fans who just eat the shit up, and they will watch ungodly amounts of garbage, and they're just fine with it. And it's like, okay, if that entertains you, that's fine, you know. And there's an industry for it, and it never really goes away. It goes in ebbs and flows as far as being popular in the popular zeitgeist. Like you'll have your Screams every once in a while, or what recent years was the Saw and the Paranormal Activities and things like that, and it'll go in flows.
Insidious films. I mean, all that James
Zombies,
Wan,
all that shit. Yeah,
the James Wan Ghost Stories movies are great. They've created a whole genre, and you know he wisely paces them out. They come out every 2 or 3 years, so you're really anticipating them.
But no, I think Ethan's kind of right on his whole vampires and zombies theory to a point, because he says like every 7 years, I think it's either zombies or vampires that come back into popularity, and he's not wrong. We've seen this throughout the last pretty much 100 years or so. So what's
going to be interesting is, I think after what we just went through, people are not going to be watching apocalypse movies. They're not going to be watching zombie movies, right? They're not, they're not going to be watching plague movies. And strangely, last year a bunch of these were greenlit. I'm like, what's wrong with you people?
I've been trudging through the stand. Speaking of, I've been trudging through the stand. Speaking of, I don't know if you've watched any of that yet, but
I'm boycotting lovely Ms. Amber Heard, so I'm not watching.
Oh God! Well, at least she plays the crazy bitch in it. That's the good thing.
That's the range, right? So yeah.
Same thing with Ezra Miller. He plays the crazy fucker.
You got to play the strengths. I'm sorry, Mr. Sorry, we interrupted our great Reverend Hari Krishna.
Yeah, I watched the first episode of The Stand with Mecca, and it was just like, no, sorry, can't do this. No, totally not engaging. It felt disjointed. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't want to watch anything about a plague right about now.
Well, you want to know why it felt disjointed, Rob?
It's because it was edited backwards, it felt like.
Yeah, they're telling the story out of complete order. They're telling it like Pulp Fiction.
It's a non-linear thing. That's a dumb thing.
It's like, you idiots. The whole point of The Stand is the fucking journey. You don't know what these characters are doing. They're giving it all away before you get there.
And for all the talk, of diversity in Hollywood, it's the black guy's fault. I mean, geez, go figure. Way to go, guys.
On that note, we actually have a super sticker here super chat from Copper Indio, who says, for $10, keeping our lights on. Thank you so much. Tokenism is the fatal flaw in this woke philosophy. I, and many in my demographic, don't care that people look like me. I want the archetypes that engage and provoke thought in the audience.
Correct. That's very profound. Look, Luke Skywalker doesn't look like me. Did I even think about that once as a kid when I was in the theater cheering him on, or when I was playing with the action figures and making up my own movies? It never even occurred to me this dude's a blonde white guy. He's Luke Skywalker, and he's trying to save his father. That's all I cared about. That's universal. I was watching a news clip from 1983, from the Return of the Jedi premiere, an old news clip that was shown of them interviewing people who were standing in the line around the block to see Return of the Jedi in their local theater, and they were interviewing people on the line, and it was this is 83. It was white people and black people, and it was Chinese people, and they were interviewing all of them, and this one black woman was the most passionate woman there about Luke Skywalker, and I was like, this is 83. This is the most inclusive franchise ever existed. What are you talking about?
I want the people think they invented diversity. I rarely do this, but I'm going to turn the camera on for a second. Take a look at this. G.I. Joe. Ready? You got a Hispanic guy. You have a black guy. You have a woman in a command position, and that's 1982. Yeah. Okay? We did diversity back then. We did it right.
He bought it. It didn't take you long to get that, did it?
No, no. And they blotted out the Marvel thing. Just, I smell a lawsuit.
Oh, is it a reprint? I hope you didn't pay much for the reprint.
No. It's actually, yeah. Actually, Mecca got that for me for my birthday. So thank you very much.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. There you go.
But like I said, though, we've had diversity. We've had diversity, and it was done much better.
Oh,
and And I'm pretty sure we've told you, Cameron, about when we were at Star Trek Las Vegas, there's a rift between the old cast and the cast of Discovery.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, and they were saying, Roxana Dawson was saying, listen, I don't know why everybody think they invented diversity. We were doing it before then, and we didn't call attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, that was Roddenberry's whole thing, was it's going to be normal to have a Russian dude at the height of the Cold War being this, the guy flying the ship, right? It's going to be normal to have, this African woman being the head communicator. This because we're past this crap.
And it actually got the attention of Martin Luther King, no less.
Yeah. On the note of Star Trek, Kamran, we have a question for you that came from Chris Bailey, who sent us also $5. So thank you so much. And he says, a question for Kamran Pasha. Any chance Terry Matalas coming into Star Trek Picard might help right the ship? He did a great job with 12 Monkeys.
I think the problems, I wish him success with it. I think the problems on Star Trek are much deeper. I want to be careful what I say because I have friends who are young writers on Discovery, so I don't want to in any way, offend the best effort they're trying to do. They're not the ones in charge of the decision making. But it's, I think that the entire Star Trek vision that we've got right now is desperately damaged from the foundational reason. So in what they try to do with Picard, it's hard to write that ship once you've already damaged the character so deeply, right? It's like what happened with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Colin Trevorrow did a best case effort to try to fix that in his version of his script, which I really liked. But even that couldn't restore what Luke Skywalker was. It took going back in time to The Mandalorian and essentially forgetting what was to come to do that. So I just don't know that this current iteration of Star Trek can be fixed because it's moored on sand and on bad ideas. So
yeah, there you go. There's so the answer is no, won't help. And we had another question for you. ActionCom says, what was the weirdest thing you tried to figure out in a writing room?
Oh, there's so many. The weirdest thing I'm trying to say. Weird as in story wise. I mean, let me give you an incident. Let me give you an incident that reveals the politics of Hollywood, of the diversity we're talking about. I actually ran into. I had coffee with a friend of mine, sort of violated the rules, hung out with another human being in LA a few days ago. But a friend of mine who was a writer on the show, and we laughed about it because he remembered this incident. He brought it up. I was on a show. I guess it's. How much can I reveal to not ruin my things? I was on a historical show. You guys can probably figure it out from my IMDb, and it was set during the Elizabethan era. And when I was brought on the show, one of the first things I said to the showrunner was, I'd love, because the show was heavily white because it's Elizabethan England and Elizabethan France and all that time period, right? And I said, there were a lot of characters in that era, in Queen Elizabeth's court, in the French court, in the Scottish courts, that were actually minorities. There was a large gypsy population in Scotland at the time. There were Moors in London. There was enough Moors that Shakespeare felt confident writing Othello because they were part of the culture. They were being discriminated against. That's why he wrote Othello, right? So I said, why don't we take some of these historical characters who are minorities, because the show is very white, and I think there were some really compelling characters from other cultures that were in this environment. And they said, that's great. Why don't you come up with something? So I did. So I came up with the idea of creating an arc for an Ottoman prince who would have sort of this illicit affair with Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth had a very strong relations with the Ottoman Empire, right? They were allied. And so I came up with an entire arc. And then in the writer's room, I watched as I presented the arc that I've been asked by the showrunner to do. And I created a several episode arc of this prince and how he comes to London from the Sultan, his father, and their sort of forbidden romance and how it affects the rest of the show. And I watched as the rest of the writer's room, all sort of the liberal good guy voting crowd, tore that thing apart step by step, not for story, but just as like they kept changing that one character, the Turkish character. And so it started off in my arc, multiple episodes. Well, I don't think we can do multiple episodes. I think we can do one episode. Okay. Then the discussion went, all right, well, how do this character, I think this character, this Turkish prince needs to have sort of white guy sidekick, right? British sidekick, like a sailor who's with him. I was like, okay, we can do that. And then it suddenly became, well, I think that the British character is really the one that should be interacting with Queen Elizabeth, and this guy takes a little bit of the side thing. I was like, what? And then finally, at the end of the journey was, yeah, I don't think that this Turkish character should even speak English, And so the white guy basically is the translator for him, and he's going to have the love thing with Elizabeth. And at the end of that discussion, it came to, yeah, it's just not that interesting character. Let's get rid of the Turkish character. And I was like, what? I watched all of these good guy voting, liberals take my minority Muslim character based on a real guy and wash him out of the show. Wash him and being the jerk that I am, when it was over and the other writer said, we're not going to do this character, it's just not worthwhile, it's not interesting, and they made it uninteresting, right? I said, okay, and all right, I just want to say this is, and I said, okay, this I just want to say, and I've been like a week into the job at this point, and I said, I just want to say, we started off here with this multiple episode arc with this guy, heroic Muslim character who has an affair with Elizabeth, and we're now down to this guy being a sidekick who doesn't speak English, and eventually you kill him out. So you guys did that. Why did you do that? Why'd you talk about diversity? Why'd you destroy this character that's authentic? And everyone stared at me because I was the new guy. How could I even say this to everyone? And then literally the answer was, it's time for lunch. That was the answer. Well, everyone got up, time for lunch. And my friend brought up, it's like, remember how you blew everyone away with your balls that first day? I was like, yeah, balls. It was balls, all right. It was anger, because here are all these white liberals talking about diversity and then asking me to do that and do it authentically rather than just taking a white character and making him black and whatever. And then they did that. They got rid of him because they weren't comfortable with this minority dude playing such an important role in the show. I was like, all right, that's it. And I said it to their faces. And, and my friend was like, hey, man, you blew us all away with your guts. I was like, yeah, I blew you all away. So that's how it went.
Didn't help much, though, because I guess that character never made it back in there again.
No, never made it back in. And that's why my friend brought it up, and because he was talking about the liberal racism of Hollywood. He's also, he's a white guy. He was actually a devout Christian. That's why we connected, because there aren't that many religious people in this industry, and I'm devout Muslim or want to be devout. He's certainly devout, and so we connected on this, and we were talking about this incident just a few days ago.
Yeah, there you go. On that note, Willie Woodward also says for $10, so thank you so much. If I wasn't a broke mofo, I'd hire Kamran to lead a writer's room. He'd crack the whip to make things good, and if I'm messing stuff up, he'd stand up to me and set me straight. Damn. Yeah, exactly. That's what you're just describing.
That's why I got fired from Tron. Because that's why I got fired from Tron, because I was this straight. I would say, this isn't working, this is working. And when we had problems in the process, I would say, this is the person that's causing the problem. You need to either get them to give us notes on time, or you need to have them get out of the way of the process, right? Because they're messing up this process, messing up the show. And when I said that about someone who was particularly powerful in the industry, in the system, that was the day I was told, it's time for you to pack up, right? And I said, okay, so you're going to keep doing it in this dysfunctional fashion. And I said to the executives when I was fired, I said, then you're going to lose the show just because you're afraid to confront this person who's screwing it up. And you're going to let him keep screwing it up until the show is going to die. And the show died. The quality deteriorated and the show died. And I said, okay, so you want this? You all want to, you just want to be able to go to cocktail parties with this person? You're going to lose your show. But they're still going to cocktail parties with that person. I'm not invited to that cocktail party. So,
yeah, well, that's the price they evidently were willing to pay, or rather, the price they were willing for the company and their investors to pay. Rather, I should say, because that's like the thing. When it's easy when it's others people's money, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I threw my heart into that show. I'd never done an animated show before. Those who've watched it, the character was called the Renegade. And I remember because they'd asked me to come up with something out of computer code because they couldn't figure it out, give us something that gives us a rebellious thing. And I actually found that there's such thing as a renegade code. And I spent like hours I don't understand about computers. I spent hours going through computing code to find a term that was, and the moment we found it, was like, yes, we found it. It's perfect for the show. I love that show. And that's why I was told to get lost.
Yeah. And we all lost for it. Mm-hmm. And also on that note, Willie Woodward also says for another $10, so thank you so much. Damn, I love it when I can catch your morning shows. One of my favorites is when you have Kamran. I get a tad jealous because I could pick his brains for hours. Love Lorena's spicy takes as well. Thank you. Oh, thank you for watching. And L Punk Tres sent us a $1 donation, so thanks for that. And the John Beck says, hilarious phrase, Lucasfilm flying monkeys, in reference to what we said before.
I mean, I coined it. That's what I've been calling them for months.
Yeah. And Roger Haynes says, this is a question for you, Kamran. Do you think people want their investments to align with their personal values?
I'm trying to understand that question. People, investments,
I'll say it one more time. Do you think people want their investments to align with their personal values?
I mean,
now I interpret that to, like, for instance, if you're a vegan, will you only invest, for instance, in vegan products?
Well, I mean, if you were a real ideologue, forgive any vegans listening, I think most vegans are very passionate about their particular food choice, right? I think if you're really passionate about your beliefs, that can affect them. I think most people who are taking the time to invest are looking for a return. I think that's the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people who are investing are looking for a return, and ideology is less important for them. And I think that's just practical reality.
Yeah, that's probably something to that. And Warmaster7 also says for $10, I think we said this before, strike me down and I will become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Quote from Obi-Wan, with many applications. Yeah. And Bogue says, sounds like California needs, I have to be careful here. He hedges is only in Minecraft, but you know, like that kind of thing that two went off in Japan. Well, he says that California needs one of those, at least in Minecraft. So, yeah. And Stephanie Yanisek's Smuggler's Cantina says that Oprah was one of the madams or pimps. I'll bet anything. In turn,
I don't know about that, but
I'm gonna keep quiet.
Yeah.
You get a hooker, and you get a hooker, and you get a hooker.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I had some gentleman in the chat who's probably still there saying, "If you don't reveal these names, you're part of the problem."
Yeah,
hey,
no. Like, reveal too much, and this whole channel will be struck down, because that's where we are.
I will get a lawsuit for $100 million for defamation, and guess what? I don't have the money to defend that lawsuit, even if I can prove it. And so, no, I'm to make you, Mr. Grouchy Guy in the chat, happy by revealing the names that I know that I don't know personally. I didn't watch them do it. The names that people have told me that have been involved with this shady stuff. No, I'm not going to do that. You know, you can make your own guesses.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, do that. And Mills says, someone said casting couch. Should I have not subbed to Pornhub?
It's all video now. I mean, literally everything. The industry is collapsing. You know, I have several friends working on shows right now who are doing these Zoom writers' rooms. This is great for a general free-flowing conversation we're doing. To actually create a structured television show, this is an almost impossible task, right? Most people can't handle more than a couple of hours on Zoom. In a writer's room, we're spending 8 hours talking. And that's actually necessary. We're all there, we're vibing with each other, and we're on a board, we're trying things, we're crossing out stuff. Trying to do this on Zoom is a disaster. Everyone I know who's working in Zoom writers' rooms is depressed. Their shows are not going well. They're tired. They're not creating good product. The next couple of years, if we continue down this road of being locked down, which it looks like we will be regardless of vaccines and things like that, if that's the road we're on, it's going to destroy this industry. We've already had television shows. I had friends working on shows that were greenlit and that did this online writers room. And then after they handed in all the scripts, the shows were canceled. Once the network actually figured out the economics of attempting to film under the new union restrictions for health and stuff like that, they realized it's not feasible to actually film this show under the new rules. So we're just going to cancel it. And that's what the industry is going to go through. But everyone's afraid to question the current situation because they don't want to be labeled as someone who is a virus denier or someone who wants to kill grandma. Whereas everyone private is saying, man, we ain't going to survive this. This industry is not going to survive unless someone can somehow get us back to normalcy. But no one has the courage to even mention the word normalcy. On a call yesterday, I spoke to an executive and I said, I'd love to be able to have coffee with you again someday rather than just do this, right? And she got so tense. It was just me and her. She got so tense. She's like, well, it was almost like the Big Brother was watching. She's like, well, no, we're not going to meet until there's a vaccine, and they tell us. I was like, relax. I don't think anybody's listening to us. But she got so scared, and me even suggesting we could return to normal, right? Not because she doesn't want that, but because she's afraid of going against the current narrative that everyone is forced to say.
Yeah, that's truly scary stuff. But yeah, and I think that's probably worse in Hollywood than anywhere else on the face of this earth right now, is my opinion there. And Natasha Cloutier says, need a VPN, get Surfshark and use the code MIDNIGHT, and that's exactly right. Help support us and get the product that you need in Surfshark VPN, which are awesome. I fully stand by them.
Surfshark's got you covered, as I always say.
And right now, Commander Cisco, so we can get this up on screen even, says that Tron Uprising is one of my favorite animated shows, a show that is entertaining for kids and adults. Dyson was my favorite character.
You know, when I was hired to do the show, that's exactly what I said to them. I said, if you guys are going to put me in charge of this thing, right, then I'm going to create a show like the Batman cartoon, which I really liked, which a child can enjoy and an adult can find very sophisticated, right? And I said, that's what I'm going to create for you. When I was fired, the official reason that I was given, not that the real reason, which is that I challenged somebody who was more powerful than me from screwing up the show, right? That was the real reason. The official reason, when they're like, it's time for you to go, it was, well, we feel that the show is really too adult oriented. We need it to be for children, and which is what I understand the second half became, and which didn't help.
Nope, evidently. Get the adults. That's absolutely the way to do it. And we have a couple of more super chats to go through. Yeah. These ones are older, so I cannot show them on screen. So you're just going to have to listen. Your Muslim uncle says, "Hail and hey, Midnight's Edge. Salam alaikum, Sidi Kamran, and hail Fandom Menace. Kamran, can you see an Etrigul level sci-fi show be made for US Muslims?"
What was the word level just before the what was the word that he said?
Etrigul. Etrigul level.
Etrigul, the Turkish. Yeah, Etrigul, for those who don't know, is a very, very popular Turkish drama right now set before the Ottoman Empire. It's basically about this Sufi mystic who guides sort of the great-grandfather of the Ottomans, right, and in his spiritual journey. And it's a massively popular show worldwide, not just in the Muslim world. It's like popular in Latin America. Look, I think that all of those shows have the potential to be adapted. I've actually attempted to adapt one of the most popular Turkish dramas set in the Ottoman Empire, and ultimately the producer of it didn't want to make a deal because he thought he could get a better deal. He still hasn't, and so I ended up just writing my own version without him. So hopefully that'll get on the air. So there's a lot of great stuff coming out of Turkey right now. They still haven't figured out how to navigate Hollywood because there's a lot of ego there, because the Turkish dramas are massively successful in the Middle East and throughout the world. They just haven't penetrated Hollywood. And when they come to Hollywood, they come in saying, well, I'm the boss because, I have 300 million people watching my show worldwide. I was like, yeah, but nobody in America has heard of you. No one watched Ertugrul in America, right? And so it has no power here. And so the challenge is trying to get through this disconnect, these wonderful films and stories that come out of Turkey, and the people behind them don't seem to grasp how to interact with Hollywood properly. So that's a challenge.
There you go. And then we have someone who says, "Good show, guys. Love to hear Andre try to say my name." And his name appears to be Camilo Villegas. But here's like the thing. I don't know if this is supposed to be pronounced in a Spanish way, French way, or if it's Americanized. So I'm just guessing here, but I'm going to guess Camilo Villegas, Spanish way. And then Bogue says, "Kamran, you knew about Weinstein. Can you tell us what other open secrets Hollywood hasn't divulged?"
Well, if they're open secrets, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's there's a lot. I mean, again, I have to be careful. I actually, I'm not.
Be careful.
I'm not going to.
Yeah,
It'll strike down the channel. There's a lot. I will, without naming any names. There's just a lot of really shady stuff here that people know about, that people talk about. There's a lot of horrific stuff. I mean, there's abuse. You should go to Open Secret, which talks about the pedophilia in Hollywood. It's a documentary. And just go there. There's a lot of terrible stuff out there that this industry is involved in, and I just want to go deeper into it.
Well, the other thing,
please don't, because we don't want to be struck down. So
all I'll say is watch Family Guy. Seth MacFarlane throws a few in jokes in it about that. So
we'll leave it at that. There's a lot of bad stuff out there. This industry has a lot of darkness.
Yeah, we don't need to go into it here. It's just
Yeah. And Willie Woodwood wonders, so Mr. Pasha, what episodes you worked on? IMDb says you only done 2, presumably.
IMDb is wrong. I actually supervised the first half of the show, and I rewrote every single script. So, I think we're probably about 7 or 8, the first half. And so every single script, ultimately, you had brilliant writers, but I did a final pass on every single one of them. So the way IMDb works is you don't get credit for a lot of things. You'll see that my wonderful show that I did with Oliver Stone is not on IMDb. IMDb often is erroneous. I have friends of mine whose IMDb has been mixed up with an actor's. And so, everyone, he's got all these acting credits and all of his writing credits are wrong. So IMDb is not accurate often. And it's certainly not accurate about my stuff. But yeah, I was the head writer of Tron Uprising. I hired the writing staff, and I rewrote every single one of the episodes that I was there until I was fired, which is the first half of the season.
Yeah, and there you go. And Ironcaster, in reference to what we said earlier about movie curses, asks, what about the poltergeist curse?
Well, you never know about that one.
I chalk that up to an incredible string of coincidences, really.
And I'm going to now go a little weirdo on you, okay? I actually do believe in that, and I actually believe there was a curse on the Exorcist set. I'm a Sufi mystic, so I believe all kinds of interesting things. But yeah, there is an occult element of Hollywood that's real. And again, I don't want to go deep into it, but it's not just rumors. I crossed that world where I've seen that there really is occult and ritual and weirdo spiritual practices by people, what we would call black magic. It's a real thing in the dark parts of this town. And I do think there was energies of that involved in Poltergeist. On Exorcist, the director, William Friedkin, and I was blown away. William Friedkin one day followed me on Twitter. I was like, why is William Friedkin following me on Twitter? I don't know. I sent him a DM saying, sir, you're one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. And he responded, well, thank you very much. I was like, why the hell is William Friedkin? But William Friedkin has been very open about the fact that there were strange paranormal things that happened on The Exorcist. He actually had the crew stop working on The Exorcist because they believed that there was an actual entity on the set that had been summoned by the film, and so he actually he would not work on the film until he called in an actual Catholic exorcist to bless the set, and then they came back. And Friedkin has since then, and I've heard him talk about it publicly. He has since then said, that, and this is an unusual thing for Hollywood directors. Most people are like, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in this stuff. He's like, I believe in possession. He's done documentaries. He did a recent one about how possession is a worldwide phenomenon. Every religion, exorcism is a worldwide phenomenon. And so there is another, you don't have to believe it. I believe it because of my own experiences. There is a paranormal element to Hollywood that's real. And I do believe it can appear in these unfortunate situations.
Yeah, there you go. So there's apparently 2 kind of curses there.
Yeah.
Mr. Tickle Trunk says for 10 Canadian dollars, I have to be careful here. The woke are the good guys versions of the bad guys versions, anti-preachers of people who like people of their own gender. The loudest of them are always caught blowing dudes in airport bathrooms. It's all projection.
There's truth to that. There's definitely truth to projection and people people hiding their own sins and accusing you of them. It's part of human nature.
I did nothing wrong in the Minneapolis airport. Okay, that's a dated joke. So
yeah.
And Hurin the Steadfast says, I really want to see 1981's Excalibur 3-hour cut. I didn't know there was such a thing.
I didn't know either. But Excalibur is a superb movie, so if that exists, I'd love to see it too.
Yeah.
I just like to say that I asked Cameron, he goes, "What do you consider that the definitive film version of the King Arthur mythos, or is there anything else we should you could suggest?" Because I consider that the definitive King Arthur movie, besides Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So
I love it. I don't know if anything is definitive. I'm hoping that an even better version of that story is told. Right, that's to me still one of the most remarkable ways of telling that story, and I enjoyed it. There's other efforts. There was First Night and others trying to tell it from Lancelot's point of view. It's I would love to see it exceeded. So far, I don't think it has been exceeded. There was an interesting one with Keira Knightley where they tried to do like the true origins of Arthur's story, where Arthur is actually a Roman general and Merlin is like a druid or whatever, like the origins of where these mythological characters came from. That was an enjoyable movie and might even have some historical truth to it. Whatever. I think, like Lord of the Rings, Arthur is an archetype for a reason, and I would love for it to be improved upon. So far, Excalibur has not been improved upon, in my opinion.
Yeah, there you go. And Bogue also says, people are watching cute anime VTubers now, in reference to what's happening with Hollywood, I guess. And Namcos says, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic had April O'Neil as Baxter's programmer, and that was the early 80s.
Well, yeah, and then when they made the cartoon, they turned her into an investigative reporter. Mm-hmm. But like what really sucked about the newer films is they had to cram her in everywhere they could just to make her the center of attention. And it just got ridiculous. It's like she was already a strong female character. Now you're just overkill.
Yeah. And Master Clockwork says, thank you, Mr. Pasha. And sent us a diamond super sticker, so thanks for that. And Michael Strelitz obviously had discussed something with our loyal wrench Natasha Cloutier, who we really, really appreciate. That's been modding. And Michael Strelitz says, Natasha, thank you, but I am right though. Well, I don't know, but thanks for the donation in any event. And Grand Wazoo 42 sent us a little puppy doggy super sticker for €5, so thanks for that. And then Diego Flores most recently said, you heard occult stuff. Kamran, you should one day go and join Doomcock and Nerdrotic in the Exozone. Also, are there any other productions that people believe had curses but nothing concrete?
I can answer both those things. One is yesterday I actually joined Doomcock for the very first time on his Harvey channel to do just a talk about everything from movies, Star Wars to paranormal. I talked about the actual one time in my life that I actually saw a UFO. So I sort of did my own little mini exozone, and hopefully I'll be able to talk more about paranormal things in the future with him and come onto his exozone. So if you haven't seen that, you can see that talk on Doomcock's Harvey channel. So that's from yesterday. And with regard to curses, there's an interesting one that I think probably has some truth to it. There's the legend of what happened on The Crow, with Bruce's son. I do think something happened beyond just a gun accident. I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. I am of the view that the official story we have of Bruce Lee's death is not true. That's just my opinion. I do think that there were other forces involved. The funny thing is, I was once asked a few years ago by a studio. They were using the facial recreation technology we saw with that we invented on Tron Legacy with Jeff Bridges, and that now has been advanced with Leia and now with Luke in The Mandalorian. They wanted to use that technology to bring Bruce Lee back to life in a film, and I came in and pitched the studio head an epic, because they wanted to have Will Smith and Bruce Lee in a movie together using the technology. And Will Smith, how would we do that? And I came up with this story of Bruce Lee being part of this sort of legendary occult tradition, of the dragon, where it's like the Jedi, he passes on his wisdom, and then he's killed by these occult forces before he could pass on to the next Jedi, right? Who would be Will Smith as a child. And later Will Smith grows, and the spirit of Bruce Lee comes and guides him to his destiny. That was what I pitched. And I was very excited about that pitch. And then the studio exec looked at me and goes, yeah, that's too serious. We just want to do a dumb buddy comedy with Bruce Lee as the butt of the joke. I said, yeah, I'm not going to write that. I said, I mean, that's an example of Hollywood racism. I was like, they didn't want, and Bruce Lee said it in his lifetime, that he left Hollywood because they wanted him to, it's like Kato. They just wanted him to be the butt of the joke. Rather, they couldn't handle this powerful Chinese man, this charismatic, handsome leading man with incredible martial arts ability. They couldn't handle it. And they still can't handle it because when faced with bringing him back, and I said to the studio, this is a high-level exec, and literally the meeting ended when I said this, because you can see I can't keep my mouth shut. When he said that to me, I said, I got to be honest with you. If you try to make Bruce Lee the butt of a joke in a film, you're going to offend the audience. You're going to become a laughingstock of this town, and the movie's going to fail. And I said it that bluntly to his face. And the meeting was over 30 seconds later. Like, well, thank you very much. Here's we'll validate you on your way out. Because he couldn't believe I said that to him. I said, and that movie never got made because it's an offensively stupid idea.
Not only that, Bruce Lee's ghost would have came back and would have karate chopped him back into 1963. You don't know. You don't do that to Bruce Lee. No, I don't care who you are.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck Norris, people make jokes about. No one makes Bruce Lee jokes because he's a revered figure worldwide. He's become an icon almost of a religious nature.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, that's so true. But in terms of the technology to bring him back, you mentioned the technology was invented for Tron Legacy, and then it was further used on the Moff Tarkin and on Leia in Rogue One, and most recently on Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian. However, since then, because this is obviously proprietary Disney technology by way of ILM, so that's proprietary, so I understand that they would want to use it. But we have seen that deep faking actually looks better, because with deep faking you get the eyes right, whereas with this proprietary technology, which is probably more profitable for someone to use, the end result is that you get like these dead eyes, and with deep faking that could have been avoided.
Not only that, movement and stuff too.
All of like the deep faking is basically
because basically it's a mask of a real person. You're basically taking the real person's face and putting it on something, as opposed to the de-aging stuff, which is an animated face of
I just had this
exactly. So my question is, so Kamran, I just want to hear from you. Why do you think that they went with something that is proprietary to Disney, but still obviously the inferior technology in terms of how to bring young Luke Skywalker back to the big screen? Why wouldn't they use deep faking, given that is even open source? They don't have to pay anyone for it.
Because you said it's proprietary. There's internal politics. Disney, having worked there, is the most political studio, and all studios are political, right? You all have somebody trying to stab your back, right? It is the most political studio I've ever worked in. I was warned that by my reps when I got the job. They're like, you got to be careful there, man. And obviously I wasn't careful enough. I got fired, right? So, but there is, and so everyone has got to have their ass kissed in that system, right? And when I wouldn't kiss someone's ass, I was out. So because exactly this, I said, it is better for us to get this person who's adding no value in the process out of the way, so we stop losing money on producing this Tron animated show. And they're like, oh, confront that guy and create drama internally, or lose money? We'll take losing money. That's what they chose, right? And so that's how it always comes down to. This is a proprietary technology. Had they gone outside of this, whatever the internal technology, however the relationships are, and to use deepfake, like you said, they could have done it for cheap, for free. That would have insulted somebody inside the company who's invested in promoting that. And then now you've got an enemy who's going to try to backstab you at the cocktail party. So you can't have that. And Jon Favreau is a very, very smart political player. That's why he's not been fired, whereas I was, because he knows how to manage it and how to fight the battles that are worth fighting. And I just want to end with this one thing about the politics of Disney. The very first day I was on Tron Uprising, the very first day I arrived, I put together my writer's room. We were all getting to know each other. The execs were watching us as we broke the first stories, and everything was great. And I was meeting some of the other people, had a really good time. At the end of the day, one of the executives, a very nice woman, said, hey, I'll come into the office. I want to talk to you about the end of the first day. I was like, okay, cool. So we go in, she closed the door, said, so I've been watching you, and you come across as a very honest, straightforward person with a clean heart. She said, that's not going to help you here. Literally, she said that to my face. She said, that's not going to help you here. People are already saying this guy is trying to play this nice guy card. He's obviously got some kind of scheme, right? He's trying to be this nice guy. And literally, I was like, that's actually who I am. I'm trying to do the job. She's like, look, you got to be careful. Already people are saying, what's this guy's angle? He's pretending to be straightforward. So what's his real game? That was the first day at Disney.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's quite an employer. Yeah. And we have a super chat from Nicholas Orton. Well, you take that one, Tom.
Sure. I was just going to say that. Yeah. I enjoyed watching Tron Uprising. It was a good animated series. Shame it was canceled. Even though there was no official news from Disney, it ended on an unresolved cliffhanger.
Yeah, because their plan wasn't to cancel it. Their plan was to have this be the basis of an ongoing show that's going to make them a lot of money. It was originally on Disney XD, right? Now it's on their streaming thing. And I told them, if you go down the road you're currently on, this show will not survive past season 1. You will lose so much money on it, and you won't get the viewers that you want with the direction you're going in, that you're not going to renew the show, and it's going to be a loss for everyone. You'll have wasted all of this. And they're like, well, thank you very much. You can pack up your stuff. You can leave. And everything I said happened.
Yeah, and I mean, my understanding of the show was it was basically supposed to keep interest going between films anyway, and they just kind of flubbed the whole thing, sound like to me.
Yeah.
And then
everyone is happy at the cocktail parties.
Yeah. So. Then Read by Nature says, Cameron, have you considered making your own projects centered on historical character your coworkers forced you out of?
Well, I'm actually developing, like I mentioned, I was trying to get the rights to do this Turkish drama set in the Ottoman Empire. I wasn't able to close that, so I'm like, all right. So I developed my own historical drama on the Ottoman Empire, and so that character is going to be in there. But hopefully, we'll be able to get. This town has been shut down for pitches for months. I'm hoping, I have a finished script and I have a director attached to it and a major studio. So I'm just waiting for word as to when we can put it out there to Netflix or Hulu or whatever and see what happens. And hopefully, God willing, I'll sell it. But this town is what it is.
Yeah. That's the thing. As I say always, it takes a million things for a movie to happen or a show to happen, and only one thing for it to go wrong and everything to come crashing down. So good luck with that, and hopefully you find the funding, because that will definitely get things rolling. Stephen Otten says, joining late, sounds like I missed a hell of a show. Agree Excalibur is one of the definitive King Arthur films. Was the definitive film, sorry. The Clive Owen movie was also well done. Well, there you go. I haven't seen the Clive Owen one. It's been many, many years since I've seen Excalibur, but Rob stole my joke when I was going to say, you're all wrong. It's Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but he had mentioned it already. So.
Just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
Just a flesh wound.
I have to tell Cameron, though, about back on Bruce Lee for a second. When I went to Italy, I took a tour of the Colosseum. What was the first thing I asked when the tour guy brought us inside? Okay, now can you point out the spot where Bruce Lee fought Chuck Norris in Way of the Dragon?
You don't care about the ancient gladiators. You care about the modern gladiator.
Yeah, I said. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know where that is." I'm like, "Come on, there's no placard or anything, I expect to see a big, throughout history, a big placard of Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris with but no, it's okay. All right, looks you guys got your priorities,
Well, and somebody mentioned in the chat, and Quentin Tarantino did bring Bruce Lee back in a fashion that I found personally disrespectful. Great filmmaker. I enjoyed his movie about sort of the Manson murders, and I thought the whole portrayal of Sharon Tate was quite well done. But it's that whole thing where he had. Bruce Lee was basically portrayed as this sort of jackass who's bragging to the cast about his abilities, and then Brad Pitt comes and teaches him a lesson by kicking his ass. I was like, this was exactly the mindset that I was dealing with there. It's like all these white people that are just uncomfortable with Bruce Lee and have to put him in his place.
To a point, I agree with you. But I also know that story is loosely based on supposedly an actual event.
Yeah. But it's a point to focus on.
And they do show him in other lights throughout the film, though. Because they show him doing the stuff with, like you said, like Shannon. Yeah. I do agree with it was a little. I did enjoy the scene though, because like I said, I've heard that story numerous times told in different ways. So I envision it was probably something similar to that. Because
it's a choice. There's a lot of stories from Bruce Lee's adventures. He could have been a mentor to Brad Pitt instead of this sort of dumb adversary who gets kicked into a car. There's a lot of choices there, and that's a choice.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It is to a point, but I think it was also a way of speaking to Brad Pitt's character just being an asshole in general too. Because I mean, he gets fired over it. That's kind of the whole point of the story.
But he also might have killed his wife, which they never,
Yeah, they kind of dance around that too. Yeah.
More super chats.
Yes. Diego Flores says, another question to Cameron. How do you feel about the religious and philosophical element from Islam of Dune? And do you think Villeneuve, see, you should have read this one, Andre, will respect it or somewhat minimize it because liberal racism?
I mean, it's a great question. For those who don't know, much of Dune is based on Islamic eschatology. The whole Mahdi thing that's an Islamic sort of messianic figure, an Islamic legend who comes at the end of time and unites mankind, whatever. And there's a lot of Arabic in it. He was a very well-read guy, Frank Herbert, and he had traveled to the Muslim world a lot. He knew a lot, and he put a lot of that in there. So as someone of that culture, as I read it, I recognized entire Sufi mystical tenets that were being like the lisan al-ghaib, which is the sort of the language, the mystical language they use is the actual language in Sufism, which literally means the language of the unseen. So he's using Islamic mystical stuff throughout it, and I thought he did a great job. Now, we're already seeing in the early crypts that we've seen of the new Dune movie, where it's saying a crusade is coming. And as anyone who's read the books knows, the word jihad is used, not crusade, right? Because it is based on these Arabic origins. And so that already to me was a warning sign and I don't know that it's Denis Villeneuve. I don't know that it was his choice. It may very well be the studio saying the word jihad has negative connotations in the West. For Muslims, it's a positive word, right? In the same way, crusade is a positive word for Christians. Crusade for Christ, crusade to fight hunger. For Muslims, it's not a positive word. We're on the other end of that, right? And so it's cultural. And so they may have thought, the hero leading a jihad. I don't know about that, man. I don't know about that, right? And so I have a feeling the Islamic stuff is going to be toned down. It's just because I don't think the studio wants to promote it. I don't know what Denis is, but I don't think the studio wants to do that, which I think cheapens the uniqueness of the story.
Yeah, and Andre's having some net issues at the moment. I'm sure he'd have a few things to say about it as well.
Oh, have we lost Andre? Okay.
He's here, but he's having a connection issue. I think he's going to reset his router. I'm not 100% sure if he can even...
Yeah, I think we're over it now. I think I've been able to fix
You're a little
the issue.
Still, but not too bad.
Yeah, it's a little thing, but we can hear you.
Yeah. And then Kyle Dawson says, will Get Ed 2005 JetX ever get back DVD release? I don't know anything about the JetX series. Do you, Rob or Cameron, at all?
I regret I don't. So I know you paid for it. I wish I had some commentary to give you a value. I apologize.
Not familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm not either. JetX, was that on Disney?
I don't know. I mean, I could Google it, but I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be able to give any real commentary.
So. Yeah, if it was on Disney, not likely. Right now, I'd be my guess would be seek out whoever owns it, and whoever owns it, it'll probably end up on whatever proprietary service they have. Like if it's a Nickelodeon series or something like that, it'll probably be on Paramount Plus. If it was on Disney, then it'd probably be on Disney eventually, because Disney's pretty much stopped doing Blu-rays and DVDs of anything that isn't like a big release. So, and I'm seeing a lot of studios follow suit there, which I mean, we just got the announcement for Wonder Woman on Blu-ray, but we knew that was going to happen. But yeah, going forward, I don't see a lot of older shows and stuff getting a lot of releases unless it's very specific titles and boutique things. But then again, I mean, I know things like anime and whatnot are very popular. So you never know. Again, it all boils down to who owns it, or if there's a boutique company that might want to release it like Shout or something like that.
Well, speaking of releases of old shows, I'm so glad that I have early DVDs of the Dukes of Hazzard, which for a while you couldn't get.
Yeah.
Because, they've got a Confederate flag and the General Lee and it's racist and it's blah, 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 blah. And I was like, man, this is a great show. It's Daisy Duke. No, this is not a... Whatever. I'm glad I have those. I don't think they're available anymore, which is
which sucks. Yeah, they pulled all this crap right in the middle of right after they did an HD remaster of them, actually. So there is an HD remaster of them out there, but I think they pulled them down from all the streaming services if they haven't brought them back up yet.
Well, that's why I went last year with all the gonna start again with Gone with the Wind. You know, it's one of my favorite films, and yes, you can critique it on many levels, including on race issues, but it's one of my favorite films. And I went and got the latest, you know, the whatever, you know, anniversary release that was, because I'm just gonna have hard copies of this, because I don't know how much longer these things are gonna be available to us online,
or before they start getting censored and stuff. And Aweather A says, Cameron, please do EFAP episode. That'd be brilliant. I'm sure he'd love to. It's all down to the invite, I'm sure. But I'm sure you're familiar with
and I'm always teasing my friend Abu Nas about, you know, why am I never on the Dark Council? Because I was like, oh, these white dudes from Australia are on the Dark Council. Why is this brown dude never on the Dark Council, right? And I've never been on the Dark Council. I mean, I know all those guys, but God bless them.
There you go, Abu. Make it happen. Jesse Miller coming in again. Thank you so much, Jesse. Says, I like Cameron. Maybe I'll toss some stuff past you one day. I'm making a channel intro and want to make it into a pilot one day. My profile pic is the character model. Yeah, he's like working on a bunch of stuff in the background. I know Jesse pretty good. Known him for
one of the things is I've had people, I'm always happy to talk to people, give advice. I've had people, you know, regularly, and this happens to all screenwriters, can you read my script, right? And most screenwriters are like, they're overwhelmed with people who can you read my script. 99% of scripts are terrible. 99% of scripts written by professional screenwriters are terrible. I know, because I've read them to hire people. I'm like, how the hell did this person have a 15-year career, whatever? So the way I keep my sanity, and also to weed out the people that are not serious, which is most people, is I just have a screenwriting consulting service. So if someone has a finished screenplay, I have a specific fee to give actual very detailed page-by-page feedback. And 99% of people, when I tell them I have a screenwriting consulting service, because they just want you to read the script for free and spend several hours on the phone with them of time that you could be doing to do your own stuff and make money, right? They just will go away. Like, oh, they take offense. Like, you don't want to read my brilliant script. I'm like, no, here's my fee, and I'll charge, and I'll actually give you feedback. The few people that have ever taken advantage of it always had solid scripts, and then went on to actually do something with those scripts. So, you know, it's actually a way I keep my life sane and allow professionals to come to me. Because if you're not willing to pay a professional screenwriter for a consulting advice, you're not actually a serious person.
Well, I'm assuming you're probably pretty fair compared to most of the industry, because like you're saying, this is actually an industry standard thing. I know Script Doctor actually does it too as well professionally. So.
Yeah, my rates are pretty low, but just saying that makes 99% of people go away.
Right.
All right, good. Like, if you don't value my time, I don't really have time for your stuff. So.
No, and that's totally fair. You know, as the Joker says, if you're good at something, never do it for free. Don Ford says, Paul didn't lead a jihad. It was solely the Freeman view of what was happening. Paul detested the religious connotations of what was happening. Well, I know Paul's a very interesting character, and I myself haven't been able to read all the books, but I just know from what Andre has told me and stuff. Are you back here, Andre? Are you doing all right? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here the whole time. I'm just like, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I was saying,
perfect.
Yeah,
that's just like
now actually sounds better. So yeah, if you want to comment on this at all, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
and then we'll let Cameron chime in.
Yeah, no, because that's like the thing that Paul, he knows perfectly well that that religion has been used to basically mislead the Fremen. I'm not talking about every single detail of their faith, because that's part of like later installed Dune lore, that they were always Buddha-Islamics. But then came the manipulative Bene Gesserit witches, as they are disaffectionately called, and they spread their own prophecies of a Messiah that they mixed in with their faith, polluting it with something that was never there about a. Yeah, exactly. Their plan to take over. And Paul is very, very well aware of this, that these people, they think that I am their prophesied savior. But I know that those prophecies were planted by my mother's ancestors, and it was done only for manipulation. But still, the end result is that these people have been completely radicalized. And if I now go in and I fulfill this role, which my conscience kind of tells me to do, then that's going to lead to nothing but bloodshed and disaster later on. Then I'll set a course in motion that I can't stop. And he goes ahead and he does it anyway. So Paul is not the hero because he knows that he is doing something that very little good will come out of.
And
so yeah, he's a controversial figure in that way.
He's a complex guy.
He does.
He has megalomania inside of him that's released, right? And so that's what the brilliance of Herbert is, that these are all complicated people. There's really no heroes. There are some villains, but there's really no heroes here. They're just complex human beings.
Exactly. It's different points of view. Yeah. That's what it is. Different points of view, but certainly no heroes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Samurai Vader says, do you know of Motor City that was also on... Yeah, do you know of Motor City that was also on Disney XD? I think there's some delay here. But, yeah.
I'm not...
Yeah, I think you're next.
Kamran, do you know of Motor City?
I'm not familiar with it. Regrettably, Samurai Vader very graciously donated, but I don't have any perspective to give on it because I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, and unless Rob knows anything either,
no,
I can't help you much on that one. Sorry. I wish I could have. I don't keep up with a lot of the Disney XD shows. What I do know generally comes from my kid, and he's an adult now. So, yeah. Sorry about that. Then Willie Woodward says, where can I find a screenwriting consulting service? Well, you just talked about yours. How would you find that online, Cameron?
Well, there's two ways. One, you can DM me on Twitter, which is my name, CamranPasha.com, and you can just send me a DM and we can chat about it. You can also go to my website, again, CamranPasha.com, right? You go to that website. There's a contact button. You hit that, and then it sends me an email directly to my email. You have to fill out little forms asking what you want, and then we'll chat. I'll lay out my rates, and if you're serious, we'll get into it. And so for everyone who's actually bothered to get my professional advice has benefited from it, and everyone who's done it has actually had a decent script, and so it's a good way to winnow out the crazies.
Right, and if you're somebody who's really serious about it, that's the way it goes. Yeah, it's one of those things that costs money, but I know I've talked to Willie personally about a lot of that kind of stuff. It's tough to do. I don't encourage anybody to put their own money into projects, but things like this level, you have to start somewhere. So, again, yeah, this might be one of those things you may have to do. So There you go. But yeah, that's how you find Cameron. And yeah, was there any more super chats, Andre? Or we're all caught up? All right. One other thing we did want to talk about super quick. I guess we don't have much time to talk about it. But there's the whole everything's being delayed. And a lot of people are coming up with a lot of different reasons as to why this is. I can kind of give everybody at least my take on it, what I see from my point of view as what's going on here. You have basically, now that the election's over, they know they're going to get bailed out. There's no incentive to really drop a lot of this stuff on any streaming services or take a huge loss on any of these things that they could normally make more money at the box office. They'll rather wait. That's why Bond didn't get a deal, so they're going to wait. A lot of people have been talking about some of the Sony projects. Now, the Spider-Man stuff, I can understand. That would make more sense for them to try to get that stuff out as soon as possible. But things like Ghostbusters, there's zero incentive for them to get it out right away. In fact, there's more of an incentive for them to wait, because then it distances themselves even more from the 2016 film. So, that's not something that people are waiting on. It's not like a sequel to a franchise that just had a movie. Now, movies like the Halloween film and stuff like that, the interest in those might start to wane. But as far as these quote unquote evergreen type movies like Ghostbusters, I don't think that the studios are real worried about. Same thing with Dune. That's something that can kind of still stagger out because it's not a sequel to something that everybody's already waiting for. Now, Cameron, I'm really curious to get your take on this as well, as far as the delays real quick before we round out.
Sure. Well, I think your perspective is right. I think ultimately those that the audience is invested in, they need to put out. I don't think the holding bond much longer is going to be good. But those that people don't know what to think of, like Dune and Ghostbusters, which we're hoping is going to be good based on what we've seen, looks like it's going to be good. We'll wait for those, right? But I want to talk just briefly on that with the bigger issue, which is Hollywood is in serious trouble because theaters are dying because of the events of the last year. Theaters are dying. The theater industry is being destroyed. I went to see this horrific Wonder Woman 84 in a sort of ad hoc drive-in that had been set up in Hollywood, basically in a parking lot, and it projected onto a wall, right? And it was a terrible movie, and I paid $60 to see that with a friend, right? And I love theaters. I think the theatrical experience is actually spiritual and mystical. It's like going back to when we're sitting around a campfire, hearing stories from the shaman, right? I think it's very primordial. And I think that the death of theaters is a loss for humanity. I think we're unfortunately heading towards that direction because of the way Hollywood has managed things and the way Hollywood is now managing things in the post-political situation. We are in serious crisis in Hollywood. If the movies they already have in the can, like Bond, they need to make a lot of money to make some kind of profit. And if it's just coming out on streaming or DVD, to the extent people are looking at DVDs anymore, it's not going to cover it. And unfortunately, the current efforts bungled it pretty badly because, Warner Brothers, HBO Max put out Wonder Woman 84 simultaneously on HBO Max and whatever limited theaters we've got right now, and it's a terrible movie, and that's not going to help HBO Max and make people want to go subscribe to HBO Max. Now I just heard, and maybe you can confirm if it's true or not. I've heard that HBO Max is planning to put out the Snyder cut, of Justice League as 1 4-hour movie.
Yeah, something happened. This
is true.
Going to watch 4 hours.
Yeah, here's the thing, and you're right, Cameron. Like, the thing is, the HBO Max business is a completely different animal, and that's something I got to keep reminding people is they don't care. Like, it's not about making money now. They're all about getting people on HBO Max because it's a dying service. They don't have anybody on there, and they need 200 plus million subscribers to be profitable. We've basically got numbers now to know what their goals are. And so the HBO thing has nothing to do with the pandemic. And I keep telling people that it wouldn't matter. They would still probably make a lot of these moves, even if things were normal right now. Not all of them now, but like things like King Kong Godzilla, that would definitely go to theaters. But now Wonder Woman, there had been a chance they might have just said fuck it and threw it on HBO Max. And you're right, Cameron, because they knew it was a piece of shit.
They knew it was garbage, and it actually covered their asses for the cocktail party. Is that they don't have to tell Patty Jenkins we put it on HBO Max because we don't believe in their movie, right? And so now the cocktail party is going to be comfortable. But yeah, they might have they were prevented from the Sophie's Choice by World Events. But you're absolutely right. Your analysis of HBO Max. I have no interest in subscribing to it. I didn't subscribe to Disney XD until they fixed Luke Skywalker, and now I do, and I'm actually enjoying the things that I'm finding on Disney Plus. I'm enjoying it now. I don't think there's no reason for me to do HBO Max. I'm just not interested. And if those are our options, I think we're going to be in a serious crisis this year. And I'm hoping that the internal pressure cooker of this situation forces us to start making some rational choices about how we're going to pursue both filmmaking as a craft and as a business in this next year. Because this industry if we're going to continue to live in utter terror of interacting with each other due to health issues, then we will not have a film or television industry very shortly. It's just not going to be economically feasible. And the problem is that the unions, and I'm a member of a union, and I've been very critical of my union, the Writers Guild. I mean, I've made a lot of enemies. I already have so many enemies. Famous writers know who I am because I've been critical of the Writers Guild publicly, whatever. But so the Writers Guild, all these people, everyone is putting all these very onerous rules on how to manage a set under the current environment, or at least the current fears. And those are getting things canceled. As I mentioned, the shows are getting canceled because they can't do it. And they're making it very difficult for actual production that goes forward with it. It becomes very expensive and time consuming. And no one is willing to say, well, maybe are we overblowing our fears of this thing? Because everyone's afraid of being put in the Salem witch trial thing of saying you just want to kill grandma, right? And how dare you? Everyone's afraid. No one really believes this thing is going to kill all of them. They all believe everyone else does. And so they're all terrified of what the other person is going to do and is going to report them to the virus police.
Well, that was kind of what Tom Cruise was going off about.
Exactly. And we see the pictures. Mr. Cruise violated social distancing earlier on in the film with his co-stars, right? There's photos of it. But he had to make this drama with these poor crew members whose crime was they were a little close together looking at a monitor. Guess what? They have to look at the monitor. That's the job. They have to watch this monitor, and they can't do it through binoculars. They have to get a little closer to each other. And the fact that everyone is so utterly terrified, in my opinion, due to mass psychosis at this point, right? Whatever the origins of this virus, or whatever was done properly and improperly, at this point, in my opinion, it's become a mass psychosis in handling it. And that was Tom Cruise. He was virtue signaling. He wanted to stop doing that.
Will you allow me to, if you allow me to be bold just for a second, Cameron, but I do know we need to wrap up here. But I think a bigger part of this isn't even, it is that too. I'm sure you're right. But I also see it from the outside as maybe it's a lot of the people who will become irrelevant if this goes on and on and on, because what we have here is a situation like, look, what's pissing a lot of people off isn't so much like they care about what, you know, the Hollywood studios are doing. It's that they're not basically they're not what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here, Rob.
Not necessarily.
They're not necessary. They're not somebody we need right now to be working.
They're not essential workers.
Essential workers. Necessities.
Essential workers was the fucking word I was looking for. Thank you. I couldn't remember the word they keep using. So like that's part of it I see. So like someone like you, Cameron, who like, you know what? Hollywood goes up in flames tomorrow. You can go write some books and probably be okay for the rest of your life. A lot of these actors though, they ain't going to be able to do that. A lot of directors, there's not anything else out there for them to do. What are they going to do? Direct traffic?
Exactly. You know, most directors can't write. We've been through this process recently of like Patty Jenkins trying to write something she didn't know how to do it. Without a screenwriter, they got nothing to act on.
So yeah, I feel like a lot of these non-essential people are trying to act essential in some way, and doing all the song and dancing is really trying to make up for all this other crap, when it's like, no, really, honestly, right now, your shit is the least important thing on the list of things we should be worrying about. Like movies, we've got 100 years worth of movies. Okay. We'll be fine for a few months. We'll be fine for a few years. You know, it's like, and then people are panicking about movies not coming out. It's like, you know, honestly, it warms me to hear you say the things you do, Cameron, because we got a lot of blowback from one of our videos we did when we said, you know, the theaters or the Hollywood needs the theaters more than the theaters need Hollywood. And it's obvious, no matter how they want to play it, no matter how they want to pretend and peacock around it, they still need the venue. And that's what it boils down to, is that video and things like this are never going to make up for the amount of money they need to cover the kind of budgets they spend right now. So the only logical solution is either A, help the theaters out and get this thing going and getting things back to normal, or B, change the way they do things. And as I like to say, Hollywood doesn't like to spend less money. And I'm sure you know what I mean when I say that. They don't like to change. You know, they talk about us having white comfort, but they're the ones that are so used to living in this white comfort. That's the last thing they want to give up.
Well, everyone has quotes. No one wants I got paid $5 million for my last movie. You're telling me I can only make $500,000 on this one because of the budget? No, I'm not going to do it. Right? Everyone has quotes, right? Nobody wants to go backwards. You know, and so and the unions have minimums that you establish, which also create this sort of pressure that you have to of the budget. One thing I want to address, because you talked about you got a lot of feedback. I already see in the chat there's some angry people that don't like my views on the situation. You are free to disagree with me. I will not back down from my views on this, and I'm not interested in debating them here and bringing negative energy to Andre's channel. So those are my views, and yes, I believe it is a mass psychosis. And you don't agree with that? You can. There's a lot of insults that I see being thrown at me in the chat. I'm glad you see it differently. If you've seen the person walking behind me, that's my 77-year-old mom. I take care of my mom. Right? I live with her. I take care of her, and thank God she's very healthy. And so anyone who says, if there are people saying, you know, you've got all this first person, you know, disconnection from this virus, you know, my mom is, if there's anyone who's vulnerable to it, it's my mom. And so I'm still sharing my views. Right? So please, you can make your personal attacks, but my views remain what they are based on my life experience and my knowledge. If you have different information, God bless you. Go follow your path.
Well, I'll tell some people right now, and I'm sure Natasha's trying to keep up as well as I am. You're free to put your views out there, but if you're going to be name calling and just being nasty, you're going to get put in timeout. You're going to get put in a corner. I'm just telling you now. So just be good. You can disagree, but don't be name calling and stuff.
You should know the majority of society is with you. The majority of my industry says what you're saying, even if they don't believe it. So you're in good company.
But no, for the most part, though, I do want to say I've seen a lot of positivity in the chat as well. Yes, and a lot of people have been throwing you a lot of love, and they agree with you, and they do agree with some of the views you have. So And again, it's one of those things where it's not about, I don't think it's so much about a religion or even race or even sex for that matter. It's just more about, we just want good stories. We just want good entertainment. We don't care who's necessarily telling them or who's in them. We just want something interesting that, especially if it's in the world of Star Wars, Star Trek, what have you, that is in the vein of those properties and not just for their Marxist agenda, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think we have another chat here.
Yes, we do. Andre, did you want to grab it or?
Yeah, sure, I can grab it. Tiberius Monk says, I went on a break, and this stream is still on by the power of Grayskull. I dubbed this stream Midnight's Kamran Edge in the morning. Great streamo.
I'm functioning on not enough sleep. This is all where my energy is coming from. I'm like half awake right now.
Well, I want to thank you because, yeah, we know you. This is off your schedule, and not only that, you've stuck with us now for 3 hours. We didn't expect that, and we want to thank you for that. And I think we're all caught up on super chats for the most part.
Yeah, we are. We are indeed.
Here says, as Bill said once, be excellent to each other. Yeah, there you go.
And I'm sorry that I had to dip out a bit there, but my connection was breaking up. I guess that everyone is Netflixing or something like that here locally right now.
Well, but yeah, so might as well Netflix.
Yeah, but I think I'm back again now. At least.
Well, is it true what I heard about that? I don't know if it's just affecting you over there necessarily, but I heard that there's a lot of the area over there that's going to get shut down again too, Andre.
Yeah, I'm in it.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Time to move to Stockholm, buddy. Time to move to Stockholm, Oslo. I think I told you, I've been to Oslo. Lovely city. But even when I visited, I was like, why is everything closed at 9 o'clock? Everyone's gone home. Why is the city when it was normal?
So yeah, no, like right now we're going into like a proper lockdown again. And you know why? Because of one retirement home where 2 people, actually there were 20 people that got diagnosed with this new British variety, and they don't know how that arrived there.
Well, next year it's going to be the Irish version. The year after that, it's going to be the Ukrainian version.
Exactly.
That's the thing. There's always, whenever they want it, they're going to pull this card.
But the beauty is that so far it's only until Wednesday, and the only thing that happens is that. Yeah, right now kindergarten's closed, so that's kind of like a pain in the ass. But stores and everything are still open. So the important thing that's still there.
And here's Jillian sending some love for Cameron. Go ahead, Andre. Sorry.
Yeah, and Jillian says, "You're fascinating and inspiring, Cameron. Forget the haters. All of you are so insightful, and you're right. No one should mess with Bruce Lee."
Thank you, Jillian. Thank you very much. And, I actually love being on Midnight's Edge and on all the times when YouTubers invite me on, because honestly, in this last year with all that's happened, this has been my social life, right? Most of my friends are too afraid to meet. I'm not. Like I said, one friend was willing to meet. I had coffee with him a few days ago in my apartment, right? Most of them are too afraid. And a year later, they're still afraid, or they're afraid to at least be known to want to meet. So this is my human connection with the world, and the fact that we have such a gracious, wonderful chat base and followers here. Midnight Edge always make me feel welcome. I thank you for that, because you're giving me my lifeline back into the world.
Right.
And we are very happy to do that. And also, I see many people are saying that through Midnight's Edge, and not just Midnight's Edge, but also Doomcock, Nerdrotic, and so many others in our community, we have helped keep people sane by providing a lifeline, providing a community when reality was taken away. And I'm very, very happy that we are able to do that, and we are only able to do that because not only do we have people like Kamran that's coming to join us, which we really appreciate, but also for everyone else, the people out there who are watching, to come and join us as we do these little live shows and our videos. All of this that we do to try to create like something interesting and some joy and maybe some frustration. Of course, that's not the intention, but you see what's happening. Some frustration is inevitable, but at least it's important to be informed. So yeah, that's what we try to do. With that, Kamran, it's been an absolute delight to have you join us. You're always welcome. We love having you here. We love your insights.
Thank you very much. Just keep bringing more of the hot girls. Lorena is beautiful. She gave me energy to wake up, and then I had to go back to sleep when she left. So keep bringing the beautiful ladies, you know. And especially, I would love to see some beautiful Norwegian ladies. They're quite lovely, you know. So we should have some Norwegian ladies on here.
I'm sure Rob wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah,
I'll see what we can do.
I went to Norway in 2009.
And also everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us today. And also remember, we are here every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. LA time. That's 6 p.m. Central European time, and 5 p.m. in the UK, and everywhere else. Yeah, you do the math. Trust that you know. So yeah, but anyway, be sure to make it part of your calendar every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and don't trust you to send the invites, because that doesn't always happen.
So thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you on